Thank you so much, everyone, on our continued coverage of the nationwide protest by Nigerians who are agitating against hunger. You're right on time, everyone, for the latest updates and news on the End Bad Governance protests across the country. Welcome, everyone. I'm Seun Okinbaloye. Through these 3 hours or so, I will be taking you through all you need to know what has happened on day 2. Good evening, everyone. We are now concluding the second day of the widespread protests across Nigeria. The nation remains on edge amid escalating tensions over hunger and the integrating state of the economy. Several states have imposed curfews in an attempt to restore order, but the military has announced their readiness to intervene to quell the unrest. The government is urgently appealing for calm and dialogue to address the growing discontent. Meanwhile, the lawyer representing the protesters has called for an end to the demonstration, citing concerns over issues of safety and escalating violence. Despite these pleas, the streets have seen casualties, looting, and vandalism, with some reports indicating possible hijacking of the protest by unruly elements. Well, the situation remains fluid as authorities now grapple with how best to navigate these challenging times. And of course, a lot of what we've seen, the protesters went on a day 2 out of the 10 days they said initially they will be on the street protesting against the issues of hunger. But again, we do know that those who are pro the Tinubu government, of course, day 2 is what we have seen out of the 10 days. In all of what is happening, we've seen the protesters getting back to the street in different parts of the country. There are those who are the those who are against the protesters. They are also gathering in Abuja in solidarity with the government of the day. In all of what has happened, there are a lot of lessons to be learned. And what we know is that the police are also reacting. The tear gas that have been used to control the crowd, but that has left some of the protesters, including journalists, with tears on their face. Now, in all of that, again, there are a lot of lessons that has emerged again and again in what we have seen so far across the country. Curfew in several states, from Borno to Nasarawa, Yobe, Jigawa State. All of them have, in one way or the other, in some parts of the state, curfew has been declared because of the escalating violence that we have seen in some of these states. Now, so much more to talk about, and the fact that government is now pleading and asking for calm, and everything should return to normal. The Minister of Labor, she's pleading, she's talking. We'll give you insight into what she said today on the program. The military also have spoken. The Chief of Defense Staff has spoken today, and he has warned that in case anything happens, escalation of violence continues, the military will not hesitate to intervene and coming and stepping into the fray. Now, in all of this, Mr. Ebolu Adegborua has asked and pleaded that the protests should be called off and government should take action. The protesters should allow the government to listen and take action. And these are some of what has happened in summary on day 2. Let's now give you some more details on what we have seen. We begin with the happening in most parts of the country where, of course, economic activities have been literally crippled since yesterday when the protesters took to the street. In Lagos, which is the nation's commercial capital, the protesters gathered in Ojota. Of course, security operatives were on the ground to ensure a hitch-free exercise. The State's Commissioner for Information, Benga Omotosho, addressed them and assured them that the government would address their demands. But in Abuja, hundreds of protesters converged at the Bayelsa roundabout, but police operatives fired tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. They later reconvened at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. Operatives of the Nigerian police force when they fired the tear gas canisters at the protesters when they assembled at the popular Baghdad roundabout in Abuja. Journalists covering the procession were not also spared as the tear gas were fired at them. In Kano State, south region of the country, a video of looting of a truckload of rice and vandalism of a residential building believed to have been harboring palliatives from the government by residents of Aurora community in Kano State has sparked accusations and counter-accusations, while the APC claims the state government is depriving Edo people of federal government support. The state government maintains it reaches the vulnerable groups in the state through religious bodies. The Christian Association of Nigeria in the state also affirmed that the government sourced this consignment of rice itself. Now let me take you to Jigawa State.
My fellow Jigawa citizens, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Today we woke up with a series of protests.
It came after the very first day, after 24 hours of that protest, which some part turned out violent. And the governor says that in the broadcast, noted that the restriction is with immediate effect. However, said that it will relax at some point today to allow Muslims to participate in the Jumat congregational prayers. The governor blamed the state government's decision on the looting that characterized the protests in some parts of the state.
Small boys to achieve protest, not part of our culture, and that is not part of our tradition. And we feel that this protest will not be a solution to what people are demanding or asking for. We are all Muslims, and we believe that there is nobody in this world that can put hardship on you. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's only Allah that can rescue you from that hardship. Therefore, protest is not a solution, and it will not be a solution. We realize that how people use young, small boys to achieve their objective of vandalizing and stealing people's property. This is not part of our culture, and this is not part of our tradition. Therefore, we feel as a government, we should not allow this thing to continue unabated. As a result of that, we are introducing a 24-hour curfew in Jigawa State. And this curfew will continue up to the time we have reviewed the situation again with the security agencies, and we feel it's time to relax it. But for the sake of Friday prayers tomorrow, we are relaxing the curfew from 12 noon to 2:30 p.m. And from there, to allow people to go to the mosque and pray for the state and pray for the nation. Therefore, but after 2 p.m., the curfew will continue. We pray that people will obey this curfew and ensure that they stay at home and observe the curfew.
That's the Jigawa State governor. In Adamawa State, we've seen scenarios of course, the protest continuing in there. Of course, in Damaturu, in Yobe State, in the capital, after the fourth day of the End Bad Governors nationwide protest, our correspondent was covering that protest, went round town and noticed that shops are gradually opening for the day. Today's sales is, as of about 11:10 a.m. today, no single protester was seen at the designated takeoff point for the protest.
Wrongly believe that this is sponsored by opposition. The government has failed to understand that there are also filth columnists among them that could have been behind this protest. Those that participated with them in the campaign, supported them in their election, committed their money, but were not patronized neither in contracts nor appointment. So, but they did not take a look at that. They were looking at the opposition. We are with this government, we will support this government, and we will ensure this government succeed, because if it succeeds, it is our people that succeed. It was
really happened today is what you can see there on your screen in Kebbi State.
We have reviewed the activities of the protests in Kebbi State. Even though we were able to address the protesters in the afternoon, but available information we have gathered that still some people are trying to import some people from other places to come to Yobe State, especially Birnin Kebbi, Argungu, Jiga, and Yauri to cause mayhem. We are thinking some people want to use the protest to undermine the peace the people of Yobe State are enjoying. If they burn public assets, it's Yobe State people public asset. The government of Yobe State is doing everything possible to address the challenges faced by its people. So therefore, we want to plead with the organizers of this protest to see reason. You only know the beginning of the protest. You will not know how it will end it.
Right, in Bayelsa State, the governor, Senator Okinbaloye, has been speaking about the outrage that has been expressed by citizens when they took to the street. But Ken, there is some kind of a blame game here. Listen to the governor.
Those who failed in the 2023 elections are the ones who are behind these protests in Bayelsa State. There are those who come into politics. Yeah, people fail, even including me. I failed as a chairmanship aspirant of my local government. We didn't bring down the local government. From all the security reports we have, and from the informal security reports we have, the people behind this so-called protest of August in Bayelsa is Timothy Silva, Joshua McIver, one Atuo, who is also working with Timothy Silva, Dr. Johnny Dumangi, who has been a very maverick social media man, moving from one group to the other. Tomorrow is here, next tomorrow is on the other side, next tomorrow is on the other side. He is the one on the social media with others who are working with Timothy Silva, worked with him in 2023 elections and are still working with him. They are the ones who are sponsoring and orchestrating these so-called protests.
That's the governor of Bayelsa State. Well, the Ministry of Labor has been speaking on the matter and has pleaded with protesters to leave the streets and she's appealing that things should go back to normal. Take a listen to the Minister of Labor, Honorable Onyejocha.
I am so concerned about what happened yesterday, especially the loss of lives for our brothers and sisters who passed on at the cause of the protest. My heart goes to them. It's quite unfortunate that these things has to happen that way. I plead that we should sheath our sword and embrace peace and stop at this moment. The president has heard everybody loud and clear. President is somebody who is a Nigerian, who understands the politics of this country, who understands the yearning and aspiration of the people of this country.
From what the federal government is saying through the Minister of Labor to the military that is intervening, the military has warned looters taking advantage of the protest to desist from the destruction of lands and properties. At a press conference today in Abuja, which is the second day of the rallies against economic hardship and high cost of living, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, says that the extent of destruction experienced on the first day of the demonstration was crazy. He says the armed forces will take action and won't allow the looting and destruction to fester.
At the beginning, some semblance of a very peaceful demonstration, but which was quickly taken over by a bunch of criminals that don't mean us well. And if you remember, we have warned that there are individuals that are ready to cause mayhem once this starts. And so we want to appeal to Nigerians to understand that the federal government is doing the best it can for the country. The federal government, the present regime is just there for less than 1 year. And it is not possible for them to have solved every financial, economic, security situation within 1 year. But I'm sure everybody, if we're truthful to ourselves, efforts have been made and have continued to be made. We have seen policies that have been made to address the economic situation on ground, including security situation. Things are improving. We are not where we are, but I can assure you we're heading there. And if we have the support of everyone together, we can bring total peace and the economy will pick up. Just some few days I was in the Niger Delta to also ensure that our production, oil production, increases immediately so that we can have enough funds to fund our economy. So I want to call on all Nigerians to understand with the government. If you have grievances, which I know people have, there are a lot of challenges here and there, and it's not only in Nigeria alone. Everywhere in the world is facing one economic or security crisis or the other. And so it's important to understand that we're not alone. But what we can do is not to allow criminals, individuals that have lost out, to take advantage of this to destroy our country. We should realize that this destruction we're doing, monies have to be used. Monies for development will have to be used to repair this thing so that we can move forward. We are supporting the police all through, but we are just on standby. The police is doing a good job. They're handling the situation for now. And unless if it breaks beyond what they can handle, then the military will step in. And the military is on standby and we're watching day and night.
That's the Chief of Defense Staff. Well, the Sultan of Sokoto is speaking. The lawyer to the protester is also speaking. Mr. Ebolu Adegboruwa has said, giving a word to the military, to the security agencies, to the federal government, and he's telling the protesters that the rally or the protest should end today. But in every second that the protest went on and the economy stopped, there is a consequence. Now, action must be taken by the federal government. The protesters have a reason, by the right, under the Constitution, protected by our laws, to go to the street and show their agitation against the action or inaction of government. But then, tonight, I'll first open this program and this bit on the economic implications of the protest, so that everyone that is involved will learn that there are implications for what is going on. I'm being joined by an economist, Mr. Paul Alaje. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Paul Alaje, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
What a day is it? I mean, for someone like you, as soon as when people are singing on the street, but you are calculating in Naira, you are calculating the numbers. Can you summarize for us, economically speaking, how much have we gained, how much have we lost?
Well, the gain from protests is for government to hear the cry of the people and for government to know that people can also checkmate their action. But it comes with cost. When people are not able to move, they're not able to do business, like what happened yesterday, it costs, at least the cost we're able to estimate, is an average of about 350 billion naira. And you saw what happened on the exchange. We lost about, the exchange dropped by 0.42. And maybe not just because of protest, but to a large extent, it has its own contribution. But that does not mean protest is right or protest is wrong. I'm not saying for or against whether the protest is right or wrong. But see, when people are not, yes, but when people are not able to move, when trade is not able to happen in a system or in a country such as ours, what we estimated yesterday alone, not even today, yesterday alone was an average of 350 billion naira. That is why it's important for government and protester to come together to have a dialogue regarding or a negotiation regarding what the future should be. But I can tell you it impacted our exchange yesterday. It also impacted the overall sector, especially the informal sector. In Abuja, in Kano, in Kaduna, again, it's not that protests happen everywhere, but the fear of protest made a lot of people to close their shop. Many banks were shut, insurance companies were not functioning. So it has its own major effect.
So let's look at the figures, Mr. Alaje. You said 350 billion naira That is what we have lost daily. So 350 billion times 2 would have lost 700 billion. Now that's nearing a trillion naira.
Yes. If that happens tomorrow,
well, tomorrow is Saturday, yes. We don't go into full-blown economic activities on the weekend, but we may be nearing about a trillion naira loss in the real economy, isn't it? Exactly. The real sector.
Exactly. And this accounts for our GDP. If you look at the value of our GDP, it's estimated to be around $252 billion this year. So if we don't really work on it, even if you say we have 1, 2, 3 or 1 to 2 or 3% GDP growth rate, we might still have more poverty in the economy. So
I mean, I'm going to ask you this question based on what happens when, for example, there is a logistic and operational problem with lifting oil. NNPC or the marketers will tell you when there is a problem in the country and they are not able to lift oil from Lagos to some part of the country, it takes about 3 days to 1 week to be able to make up.
Yes.
So, and I'm imagining that if we're losing, if the economy is on a standstill for 2 days, for 48 hours, how long could it take for us to be able to, get back on track?
Well, it depends. There are some that will never get back. Lives that are lost will never get back. So with those, there are no recoveries. But some, there are recoveries. For instance, in terms of crude, tankers that are supposed to move from Lagos, perhaps to as close as Ibadan. But if there is a major protest, violent protest, which of course is not what I saw in Lagos, but let's assume there was violent protest, it may stop at the availability of crude in Lagos and perhaps the rest of the country. What will that mean? When the protests end, it will take time. It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks, and so on and so forth before it gets there. And you should know that cost of protests all over the world can be divided into 4. The first one is short term. For instance, eventually truck will move and you get to destination before 1 month. And you also have the one that affects perhaps grocery stores that might have been burnt. That may take them medium term. Sometimes it takes 2 years to 5 years before they recover. And in case of government facility that was burnt, for instance, in Kano, it may take long term, around after 5 years, before that kind of factory that we saw in the communication center, I guess, in Kano. I know you interviewed the Minister for Communication yesterday, and he expressed his frustration regarding what happened yesterday. So it may not be what we can solve in the medium, in the short term. It may take a long while, a long term, but the biggest cost of all is what we cannot recover. The lives that were lost. There's nothing we can do about it.
Sadly. And also the money that has been lost cannot be recovered.
Money can be...
you can recover in the business.
In a business.
But the money that is lost, what we cannot sell,
it's gone.
What we cannot trade in globally, what we cannot trade locally, those are gone.
Forever.
The business can recover.
Yes.
But what is lost in the tangible, you may not be able to recover.
But you have the implication on GDP per head. That's a per capita.
So that gap also is there.
It will be there. So if this persists for a long time, it might actually make the economy to shrink. There are other factors making the economy to shrink already. Maybe that is why protesters are even protesting in the first instance. So now that it's obvious that government knew that people, especially young people, are not particularly comfortable with some of the policies of government. It's also important that as young people, we don't overstretch it. And I like the lawyers representing the protester. I've said that, we should put a stop to it today, and I want to lend my voice. Has the message been loud? I think it's loud enough. Is it clear? I think it's very clear. I think it's a time for us to hear that, okay, we have heard you, and I think government should take the charge by calling this protester to order to say, let's talk and let's find a way forward.
For those who are thinking, where are we going to be seeing these losses? Which of the sectors are going to be hit? Mr. Alaje, hit it for us. Aviation, telecoms, factories, warehouses. Am I right?
Yes, you're going to have it in aviation. You're going to have it in multiple chain stores. You saw what happened yesterday. From what I saw on social media, some security agencies has to protect one of the largest chain store in Abuja. And we have seen what happened in other parts of the country. So they are the first attack. Warehouses where you keep food. We saw what happened in Kano State where people said we have found palliative. Now, they are private sector owned. I saw a woman on social media that has nothing to do with government, but her store was looted. So because those that are protesting have good intention, but they are miscreants who, whether they were agents of state or non-state agents, that have mixed up with the protester, they may look for ways to actually cause more mayhem and more harm to the people than the benefit of those they thought they're even fighting for in the first. And it does not stop there. You have those who are producing mobile phone. You have telco, infraco. If telecom mass is affected, you know what that means. That is everybody in the region will be out of network. What happens to mobile phone generally? So it's going to affect a lot of things. Things people can pick that is handy. You know that if there is a protest, it might affect. But you know, transport system, where if roads are blocked, tire is burnt on the road, people are not able to move. People cannot even go to their businesses, especially in formal sector. They are the one that bears the brunt the most when there is protest because they are not sure. Now, imagine most of the population we have. People live on daily income. So if there is a standstill, if there is riot or there is protest, then it becomes a major challenge for them. So these are costs of protest. So before people are dragging to protest, we need to watch it. And before people take long protest, we also need to, because we need to balance it on the part of government and also on the part of the protesters. So we need to balance it. So to a government policy, they should watch. This policy
don't allow it to happen.
Don't allow it to happen. And when it happens, protesters should
because it's a leverage for the people who are protesting.
We don't do it forever. Exactly.
There's a leverage for those who are protesting. The citizen, the workers, whoever that is protesting is a leverage. Protest is a leverage.
It is.
And when that happens, government or anyone who is going to be on the receiving side knows that there will be losses. So this information is for everyone. So that the average Nigerian also will know that the economy that we are saying that is on the edge and the economy that we say is fragile is furthermore being beaten down by the actions that we are taking. So the actions to call for change also has its implication. But let's look at it. Some of the other implications that you have shown us tonight. You said businesses closing down or reducing in operation. You talk about stock returns to drop to 1.4%. That is drastic, isn't it?
Very, very drastic. You saw what the stock market lost 0.42% just yesterday as a result of the protest. Maybe there are other factors, but what we knew yesterday that it was huge, bearish market for what happened yesterday. So if there are losses, and we know that overall economy, real sector, also has its own loss. It's a major loss that we had. So for me, it's a clear call for all stakeholders that please, we don't need to push people beyond measure. And those that are also on the street, it's a call for them perhaps to take, as government said, they want to negotiate, they want to talk. For instance, FCT minister have said, I would like to talk with the protester. And the same, Lagos State, so many states are saying, come, let us talk. My hope is that when this conversation holds, all stakeholders will eventually have take-homes and will not be here again.
You have touched on very critical aspects, and I don't know why my producers are delaying in bringing these figures out. Please help me, we don't have the time. Stocks to return dropped to 1.4%. All share index exchange lost 0.42%. These are areas that will give us some concern, and the CBN and other regulators perhaps will be looking at what this will mean when maybe in another 2 or 3 days, the economy will get back on its feet. But if you look at some of these issues that you have raised in the economic implications, when the president looks at the briefings that he gets and he looks at the table and holistically, he will perhaps be thinking, we need to urgently take action.
Honestly, and the actions are there. I only hope that those that are supposed to take the action will take it this moment today. Each time we delay in taking this action, we might be looking at those countries that also delayed. For instance, Venezuela delayed in taking this action. We know where they are today. Argentina is still delaying in taking the action. Zimbabwe, for a long time, delay. All their currencies, all the 3 country currencies are in total mess. So because stock will be affected, and it's not just now, even the previous protest, stock suffered major setback. Output suffered major setback. If we delay this protest for more than a week, what you are going to see is prices will start going up, because supply will be hampered. So it will start going up. As good as protest is, for us to allow our leaders here what we do, and I don't think anything is wrong with it, more so that it's enshrined in the Constitution, but I also think that we need to look at the cost component so that when the protest is over, we don't come back to bear most of the losses.
Recovery, that's another point. Yeah.
Yes.
On the short term, medium term, long term, what should we be looking at?
So, for instance, once the protest is over, and I hope it will be very soon, the first thing you see is that businesses will pick up again. Areas that have been shut down, those businesses will come back. In the medium term, you are going to see, for instance, vehicles that have been burnt. The owner of vehicle, it will take them relatively 2 years to 5 years before they can recover. Long term, asset of government that have been destroyed. Major stores, that have been destroyed. Things have been affected. You know, it's going to take a long time. And there may be no recovery at all for loss of life, just like I mentioned earlier.
How sensitive is the economy to these shocks?
Oh, a major sensitivity to the economy because it has direct impact on revenue. Private sector revenue, majorly government revenue. Imagine what government has lost in the 2 days. Banks are not going to open, even though they are having some operation online, but the physical operation, what requires physical operation, I can tell you that most of them are zero. So it will have impact if you use income approach to calculate our GDP. For what happened yesterday and today, likely is going to be a major loss also.
But the question, there are posers, and very critical questions to ask here. Was the protest necessary? We're looking at it from the economic point of view. What led to the protest? Government policy, subsidy removal, and exchange rate flotation. These are policies of government which has dovetailing effect and a ripple effect on the economy and affected the monies in the pocket of the average citizen, and all the indices of the economy were affected by 2 or 3 major decisions and policy of government. These are posers. Mr. Alaje, can you please just
the impact, explain? Sachet of pure water, as at May, 10 naira. Today, 30 naira. Soft drink, 200 naira. As at May last year, this year, 350 to 400. You see, cost of air tickets, last year, around May, June, it was 97 naira. Today, 150 if you are flying economy. By road, if you travel by road, I'm not talking Lagos to Abuja, for instance, it was 18,000. Today, 36,000. If you want to buy a bag of rice, if you bought a bag of rice last year, that would be around 55,000. Today, 85,000. So people say these have major impact on our pockets. Perhaps that is why protesters are saying it's affecting what we can eat. If you look at how much a module of beans was, from 1,200 or so to about 3,300. Check all the prices; they've all gone up. The one that shocked the most was 50 kg. Sugar. Sugar perhaps was about 38,000. Today it's 81,000 naira. These are basic amenities that we take. If you're in office and you print outside, before, cost of printing was 50 naira. Today, that's black and white. Today, it's about 200 naira. To barb your hair, a guy, you want to do haircut, from 1,000 to 2,000.
Fashion is expensive now.
It's expensive. For
those of us who now do afro, you know the reason why we keep our hair now.
But that salon, we still collect money from you if you want to have a nice shape. Now, what about a very cheap vehicle, Toyota salon car that's used in Nigeria was 2.5 million. Today, it's about 7 million. The question is, how will people meet up with the basic amenities from the
numbers?
You've
not mentioned one of the most important staple food in Nigeria.
Which is rice.
Rice, yes.
Rice.
But you've not also mentioned bread, which is another.
Oh, yeah, bread. I omitted bread.
Yeah, there are those people, there are some homes that they have to eat bread every day.
Bread was 800 naira. Today is about 2,000 naira for the same loaf. So it has affected everybody. And perhaps that was why the president said when he had the national broadcast that I know that the times are hard and I need you to give me a bit of time. The question many Nigerians may be asking is that, Mr. President, when will the time be due for us to say we have stayed enough?
On a lighter note, right? And this is painful, right? There was a friend yesterday, we were having a conversation about the state of the economy, and he says that when the wife bought tubers of yam, they could only buy 2, which cost about 6,000, a little bit above 6,000 naira. And that means that
the person needs to show us where they bought that, because most places now a tuber is about 6,000.
Yeah, that's
1,500.
So now 6,000 a tuber. I'm talking about a tuber.
Yes,
bought about for about 6,000.
Yes,
slightly over 6,000 naira, one tuber. Now it means that when you slice the tuber, maybe into 6 pieces. So every slice that you take is 1,000 naira. And the man has given an order in the house. Apart from him, the wife, and the 2 children, nobody in the house, the help and any other person must not eat yam. They go and drink garri because he can't afford to feed the rest of the home with yam. And now what happens is that if he takes 2 slices of the yam, the wife takes 2 slices, it's remaining only 2 pieces of 2 slices of yam for the 2 children. So there is a need for us now to think about the kind of food that you want to eat.
Unfortunately, garri is no longer an inferior good. In fact, garri now swears. Not only Ijebu garri that swears, the price of garri swears just the way garri swears. So if you want to hide under garri, the price is also
you have to think twice
going
too.
up. But that does not mean government has not responded to any of these things that have happened, so that we balance this argument. Government has responded by increasing minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000. We have also seen introduction of student loan. We have seen introduction of consumer credit loan. We have seen government raise monetary policy rate so that it can combat inflation. Perhaps monetary inflation can go down. Government has increased that from 14% to 26.25%. We have seen government announce zero import on food. We have also seen numerous palliative, 20 trucks per state. We have seen government giving money to state governors to say, oh, take money, give it to your citizens. In all of this, we have seen that amount that is shared from 400 billion, it has been humongous increase, large increase among the money that is shared at FAC for both federal, state, and local government. So these are the ways, some of the ways that government has responded. But if you ask me, with all of these responses, are they sufficient? If government has responded in this way, why are young people still on the streets?
That's a big question. And there are those who are asking, maybe there is a gap between what the government, you said that the government has responded. That means that needs to be communicated to the Nigerian people. I'm not sure that Nigerians are insensitive to the point that if they know you are doing something, they will say, I have to go to the street. Yeah, they are feeling the pain, but there's those who say there seems to be a gap in the communication between the government and the Nigerian people. But Mr. Alaje, before I allow you to go, I know you need to catch a fly. What are the solutions? Because we need to fix what is going on in this country. But what must we do now?
We need to start taking some steps. First, we must stop all external loans. We wonder why Nigeria grew from economic quagmire in 1999 to about 2007 up until 2014. Our service was very low. Before the last administration left office, the current Minister of Finance revealed that we spent over 90% of all revenue to service debt. After Naira was devalued, we now spend close to about 50% of revenues to service debt. Do you know that has increased again to about 64%? And it's going to increase if we continue this trajectory back to 90% in the next 2 years. So what should we do? Stop all foreign loan. You know why? Each time we devalue, we are also increasing money that we owe in hard currency. Number two, we need to take bold step of pegging the Naira. I can tell you all economy that left their currency to float against the dollar, they all have their backs on the ground. You can give me one example, and I will give you two examples of countries that have their back on the ground. But you see, Japan was faced with the same situation until Japan realized that if we don't peg our currency against the dollar and solve other problems, we will never come out of it. They never did. Germany, after the war, they also floated their currency. They knew they were going to be faced with problems. When the problem was humongous, they had major challenge until they fixed it against the dollar. What happened to Russia? Between the 80s to late 90s, Russian economy also floated their currency as advised under austerity program until Vladimir Putin came to office in 1999 to say no, he stamped his foot on the ground and even reduced taxes. He did not stop there, then he fixed his currency. Even, do you know Russia is at war now, but the currency has been largely stable and the economy of the people has also been largely stable. So we need to take both steps. Three, we need to also do something about PMS. Look at the protest. What was common in the mouth of many is bring fuel price, and I don't blame them, because if exchange rate is stable, every other thing in the economy is stable. But people are they are not economists. So for me, I think if you have that peg, and if you have what is purchasing power of Naira in the real sense of it, Naira to dollar should not be more than 900 to 1,000 Naira. And that is the actual figure we should be looking at. If it gets devalued further, the truth is the price of PMS will still go up. How do you remove subsidy in a floating regime? All countries that practice it, Argentina practiced it, the peso was rolling, became nothing. Zimbabwe was going to produce $1 million coin in $1 million. Why? Because they were floating and they were removing subsidy at the same time. So for me, we need to do something about those. Most importantly,
how do you remove the price of PMS? Because it's one item on the list, on the charter of demand of the protesters. How do you do that when you have left the product to market forces?
You can't leave it to market forces because we don't have a force to fight the market.
So the government needs to still subsidize.
We are subsidizing.
The government said they're not subsidizing.
We are subsidizing in FX or directly. Those are two ways you can subsidize.
Because the rationality is that if market forces are determining, the prices will be jumping up and down like a yo-yo. That is not happening, except the only thing that we are seeing is the cost of local transportation that is affecting it as you move up from Lagos. But the question is that in truth, you said, if the government has to be truthful, we need to all realize that there's some subsidies that's being paid. But where is the money coming from anyway?
I will tell you, in 1986, we have practiced similar policy. Subsidy were removed from most of our production. Under structural adjustment program, that policy failed in 1986. We're adopting the same thing, power tariff. We need to even scrap it. How do you produce in an economy that is weak and you're increasing cost of energy? Energy is everything. I'm able to talk to you because I have energy. People are watching us around the world because they have energy. So if truly we want this economy to surge, we need to find alternative revenue.
How do you subsidize energy, Mr. Alaje, when you have sold your power companies?
No, we have, federal government has large percentage in those power companies. They were not 100%.
How would they be viable if you are subsidizing again?
Why did we sell to people who don't have capacity to run them? In the first instance, we sent to cronies and friends. Why do we? Is that privatization? Did we sell the likes of MTN to friends? If they are not viable, why are they running the business? So if the people we sold it to could not bring it out, we simply look for those that can run it. That is business. Business is not pity party.
And the failure of that privatization is the darkness that we see today.
And we will continue to see it until we are able to take the bold step. The way we remove subsidy, we need to review that agreement. To those who can give us power supply. Nigeria are not saying they will not pay if power supply will be constant. For factories, for industries, for informal sector, and for SMEs. But if they are not functioning, that will have to frustration of people that are on the street protesting.
At least that I can remember, from the mid-70s up until now, instability in the power sector has gone down almost 50 years. So if the country has not been able to fix one single problem in 50 years, if President Tinubu fixes power today, it will be a miracle worker and Nigerians will celebrate him.
For me, President Tinubu, I heard he had about 8-point agenda. Reduce it to 1. Let there be light. The creator, the first thing he did, both in the Bible and the Quran, is power. Energy, light, let there be light. In the books, we call it light. Can we give us light? And if you cannot provide it for the entire nation, can you make it in geopolitical zones? If you cannot do it in geopolitical zone, can you create hubs? But before I go, something very important. In all of this, what is driving inflation? People are talking food, but we're not talking about farms. We need to create farm hubs, at least 20 per state. All the money that have gone to the governors should be attached to something, not just palliative, because it cannot last. China started out with palliative. Indonesia started out with palliative. They all failed until they understood that we need to support our agro sector on one hand, and on the second hand, industrial sector. Yeah. If we focus on these two and calculate output target for state, for local government, for instance, if you have 20 hubs per state, FCT has 20 hubs where they are planting things that will naturally grow in the FCT. In Kogi State, things that people eat that will naturally grow. All around the country, what is important that you are going to have increase in supply. When you have supply and demand remains the same, price will come down. Right. And the monetary authority must ensure that there should be no devaluation again. If there is anything, we need to peg Naira against the dollar. We will find out how we're going to get that currency. They are in our they have mineral resources. How much is coming from mineral resources? If we don't look at, we have mineral resources everywhere. If we cannot do it, can we partner with those foreign organizations to give us our currency so that instead of depending on oil, we should? And lastly, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for this. Lastly, what is stolen in crude oil in the Niger Delta? We need to do something very quickly about it. Between 700 to 800 million barrels a day is stolen, according to reports. Again, 2 million to 2.1 million barrels we should be producing. We are doing around 1.1 to 1.3 on the average, on daily basis. We need to boost that back by telling, I'm happy the head of the military in Nigeria said he was there in person, and I'm only hoping that his presence will lead to output, because his presence matters for us as an economy, for us to see the output. That way, we're going to have more reserve so that Naira can remain between 900 to 1,000. If it is not, I can tell you, the future might not be different from the
Dangote was going to get nothing more than 450 barrels per day.
Which is a good
if we fix the theft, Dangote will have more than sufficient.
If we have sufficient
if Dangote does not get enough, he has to now bring into the country.
That is pressure on exchanges. Naira in your pocket. People say, leave Dangote, let you do his business. If Dangote does his business by importing, the Naira in your pocket will be weakened. When it's weakened, whatever amount you have will never be enough. So we should know that economy is connected. It is not isolated. If you don't look at it holistically, then you will suffer alone as a person.
Paul Alaje, I wish you the very best. He's the chief economist at SPM, one of our very good friends right here, giving us perspectives in the implication of the protest to our economy. And if I summarize, and one thing in your conversation today is that there are implications, everyone, implications to this protest. But for President Bola Tinubu, he says, Bola Alaje's message to you tonight is, be Mr. Lights. Bring the lights and you'll be a hero forever. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break, everyone. But when we return, we'll give you perspectives that you need to know. In all of what has happened today, we will unpack it for you, and you get perspective from the side of government, from the protesters, from the lawyers, and we'll be able to know where we are headed from here. Stay with me, everyone. I'll be back right after that. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's now get some perspective, varying ones, of course, on the situation in the country, and perhaps let's look at where we need to take these issues that have taken the Nigerians that are protesting to the street. I'm being joined by Alhaji Jamiu Abiola, the son of MKO Abiola. He's a special assistant to the president on special duties in the office of the vice president, and also wrote the two democracy non-fiction bestsellers, The President Who Never Ruled and The Stolen Presidency, which is, of course, available for sale. Jamiu Abiola, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
And I'm also being joined by Damilola Adenola, who is the Damilare, apologies. Damilare Adenola, who is the director of mobilization of the Take It Back movement, one of the organization who is promoting the End Bad Governance protest. And from our Lagos studio, he's an activist and a lawyer, Mr. Inibe Effiong. Thank you so much, Barrister Effiong, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Seun. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. So I think I should begin the conversation with you, Damila. You and your friends started this whole protest. And the question will be, have you achieved the objectives that you set out in the first place?
Well, I'd like to address your question by saying that myself and my friends didn't start this often. I've said them again and again that this is the idea of hungry Nigerians. This is the idea of deprived Nigerians. This is the idea of economically marginalized Nigerians. And for the question of objectives, the protesters, which I am part of, are yet to achieve the objective of our protests, which are stated in our Charter of Demands. But one thing we have been able to do is to make a strong statement and to send a strong message to the people in power, to see the capacity of what the masses, what people can do by way of protest, to see what the people are capable of if they are about to, express their displeasure. That was kick-started and it's ongoing, and we are waiting on the government to respond to us and address our demands. And until then, the protest continues.
From your own point of view, it does look like there is only one thing that you have achieved in this protest, and which is the fact that you have awoken some kind of consciousness in the Nigerian people, and you have gotten the attention of government. Is that all that you have achieved?
Well, I think we've been able to, make people see that they have the power to hold government accountable. And we've also made the government to, come to the consciousness that governance or government is meant for the interest of the people. And once the people are unable to benefit from your governance, then there's no sense for the continuation of such a government.
Are you being sponsored by any politician?
Well, I think for me, I think that's a ridiculous way to denigrate the genuine agitation.
I'm asking a direct question. Yeah. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm asking because there are direct allegations that the protests in some ways are being sponsored by politicians. So I'd like you to be able to open up to Nigerians to let them know that this is being sponsored in part or in whole by some politicians. Is it true?
For me, the sponsor of this protest, I've said and I'll say again, is hunger. It's economic inequality, economic deprivation of the larger percentage of the Nigerian people. Anything short of that should not be considered. What we should be considering is that Do people have a genuine reason to take over the street, to express their displeasure? Are people really hungry? I walked the town of the state today while protesting, and I saw the humongous queues at the filling stations, and then I was appalled. These are reasons why people are poured on the streets across the nation protesting. There is unavailability of PMS. Look at everywhere in the country, there's darkness. Look at everywhere in the country, there's high cost of living. Everywhere in the country, transportation costs are surged. You know, people are not living a good life.
So, and you heard the FCT minister who says there is a senator, a lawmaker, who is behind all of these. Is anybody buying you water, logistic money from all of the, are you getting any kind of support?
The people themselves, in their benevolence, the people protesting in their benevolence, those who have done, some are the ones who provide for the less privileged at the protest ground. I don't think you should expect more from the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Wike, than mischief. Because I think they've assessed the whole condition, and that's their only way to bail themselves out, by beginning to make mischievous comments, trying to, rather than address the main issue, beating around the bush, you know, finding all means to denigrate the genuine agitation of the Nigerian people, rather than sitting down, inviting the people, rather than coming on the streets to speak with the Nigerian people. If these people in power, if they are really interested in the, you know, social welfare of the people, by now the president ought to have come to the Abuja streets to address the young people who are genuinely agitating. And rather, what we have been seeing are reckless statements, you know, flying up and down. We saw one this afternoon from the Chief of Army Staff, who was subtly threatening Nigerian youths. We've seen several states in the country imposing curfew. These, for us, are, you know, insensitive approaches to the
I'll come to what you feel about the violence that have erupted and how some miscreants have now taken the opportunity of the protest to start looting government and private properties. But a question by Mr. Okinbaloye that he as the poser and the advisor is given, is your lawyer, and he said the protest should be called off after today.
He's not our lawyer. Okinbaloye is not our lawyer. And he doesn't speak for us.
But you wrote on behalf of Take It Back movement,
yes,
to the IGP.
Yes, he might have presented himself as a solicitor, but he's not hungry, obviously.
Have you sacked him?
He's a senior advocate.
Have you sacked him?
He's a senior advocate.
You might employ a lawyer and sack him.
Mr. Ebun, he's a senior advocate of Nigeria who, you know, lives well. You know, he's not as hungry as common people who are taking over.
So you don't yield to that plea that you should call it off today?
No.
All right, just give me a moment. Let me speak to, and I'll come to you, Mr. Efengenebe, just in a moment. Mr. Jamiu MK Abiola, son of MKO and Kudirat Abiola, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
You advise the government, you work for the government from the office of the Vice President on special duty. And in your books that you have written, try to flip through and get a sense of what your thoughts are about the presidency and how what your father did and all whatnot. But when you see what is happening on the street of Nigeria today and the agitation on the minds of many Nigerians, what do you think is going on in our country and the way to fix it?
Well, what is happening in Nigeria goes on to prove that sometimes, you know, it's easy to forget the past. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of Nigerians, you know, are looking at this president as any other president because, you know, a lot of them have actually experienced broken promises from one president to another. So as far as they're concerned, anything that seems difficult is another broken promise. It's like somebody that has been in marriage like 5 times and always disappointed. Even if he marries a good person, he would think, oh, any small thing he will be looking and trying to pick. But that's our job, is to let people know when we see that things are getting out of hand, we are going to come out. I will come out and let people know the truth from my own perspective. First of all, democracy was a very, very difficult fight. If you know what happened in Africa in the 80s, you know, African leaders, those of them that actually even stepped down, that ruled for 20 years and they were like 70-something years old. I mean, this was a time in which people were very rich, very powerful. So the people that came out to fight for democracy are people that are actually exceptional. And where I'm going with this is the president that we have now is a different kind of president.
What makes him different?
He's a different kind of president because he's a president that believes in democracy. He's a president that believes in the common man. He's a president that loves the common man. And when I see all this that is happening, it's my job to remind people about who they are talking about. About this man is Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a man who could have actually left the democratic struggle but stood to fight for it, risking his life, risking everything he had. So he's not like the other people that have come and have disappointed. That is why he needs to be given time. He has the credit. It's like you in the United States, you have a good credit rating, you can apply to get a loan because they will look at your credit record and they will give you, as opposed to somebody that doesn't have a good credit record. So this man has become the president in just 1 year and 2 months he has been serving. And a lot of things he has done has been unprecedented. And so that is why when people are getting agitated, I understand.
Unprecedented in the sense that if it's unprecedented, why are people on the streets?
People are on the street because, number one, it's like now, this is channels. Do I work here? I don't. You work here, right? Let's assume that the owners of channels say, I want Jami Abiola to become the managing director, and they put me to work here. And I come in here, and you tell me that this is how the books are, and this is how things are. And I come here and I make promises to people based on what you've told me. And then I come, I find another thing entirely. And I'm trying to work it out. And it will take like almost 2 years for you to start seeing the results. Should I be blamed for what other management people did or not?
Especially when you have promised that you asked for the job.
You asked for the job, but at the end of the day, the only person,
don't pity me. I will get it
done.
The
only person, yes, and that's why he has 4 years. The only person that knows everything is God. He is the president of Nigeria. Since he has gotten there now, what has he been doing? I'll tell you some of the things he's been doing. Because people that are protesting, some of them have not really sat down to really think about what he has been doing. First of all,
those who are protesting are not being fair. Are they fair to the president?
No, they're emotional. But everybody can get emotional. And that's why I'm here, to also let them know some of the facts. And by the grace of God, when we now tell them some of the facts, a lot of them will say, oh, wow, how do you, that's where I'm going. First of all, we have a president that actually set up a fund to come and take care of people that are not, you finish, you have your NYC, you haven't gotten a job. The federal government, for the first time, is going to be giving you an allowance every month till you get a job. Once you have your NYC, that is something that the president is going to do. The other thing the president is going to do is that we have a program that we want to create 3 million jobs for people of high tech. With 200,000 people already benefited. This is not something that is a pipeline, something that is already happening. Rome wasn't built in a day. That one is already there. Then the president as well, they have like a subsidy removal loan scheme, which they've been giving out to a lot of families. 600,000 people have benefited 50,000. Of course, it's not enough, but it's a start. We have student loans. Whenever anybody tells the president that, oh, it could be done better, he is not proud. He will step down and he always do it. So when people are protesting against somebody that is already doing what they're supposed to do, then it's like as if you are, it's like something, you want to break something that, you want to fix something that hasn't broken. It's already been broken before, but now he's working towards fixing it. The first book I wrote is called Realistic Hopes. I wrote that book 11 years ago. And the reason why I named it Realistic Hope is because I realized even back then that what actually makes people fail in life is that their hopes are never realistic. If you want to succeed, you have to have realistic hopes. This man came to a government that has been, so much has happened. Terrible things have happened in Nigeria.
Well, it's the same government of APC.
But when you say the same government of APC, government is government, whether it's APC, whether it's PDP. Nigeria has been going, and you people remember what happened before the election. There was no petrol. You people remember the issue of the Naira design, all of these conspiracies, so that he wouldn't become president. So let us take a step back. 1 year and 2 months is not a long period of time.
So when do you think people should have gone to protest if the president wasn't performing?
First of all, people have a right to protest. It's in the Constitution. But what I want people to do as well is to take a look at what the president has been doing.
Is it a fault of the people that they've not seen? Well, or is it that the government is not communicating enough? What do you think is the problem?
Well, whether it is the fault of the people or what has happened, and now we're here to let people know that this president that you're looking at has a lot of wonderful plans for Nigeria. Look at this new Ministry of Livestock. You know what it's going to do? Do you know what the Livestock Ministry has done in Brazil? Do you know how that is enough to even transform Nigeria. The president is trying to like solve this, cattle rearers, farmers problem that has been going on for a long time. Look at the issue of security. The president told the security agencies that all of you have to work together. And even recently, just 3 weeks ago, a whole family was kidnapped in Kaduna, but they all came together, and in less than a week, they freed the wife, they freed the children. So now the country is already going in the right path. So when all of these things are happening, it's as if somebody is trying to bring us back. It's like the people of Israel, when the Jews left, and now somebody wants to take them back to Egypt. This should not happen.
Do you think, for a moment, maybe there are conspiracies against the President Tinubu?
The truth of the matter is that there were always fears from the beginning that if this protest starts, some people might hijack it. And some people, unfortunately, they haven't gotten over the fact that God did not destine that they will win last year's election. So at the end of the day, some of these people, I'm not accusing him. I don't know him. I don't know what his mind is. Nobody has the right to accuse anybody. But there are some people who have a very, very sincere... The same people that worked against my dad and canceled this election, do you think that they're going to want the president that was trying his best to support my dad to ever become president and to actually succeed? It's the same forces that we have, but by the grace of God, I believe in God. And I believe that whatever it is that is happening, a lot of people will come to realize that this is wrong. This man has so many... I just mentioned some of the... So many things. I can talk about it all day. This is what we do in the office. Even me on my own level, I've just signed an agreement with the NDLA. We've come up with Renewed Hope Resilience Initiative. What are we trying to do? We're trying to we're starting with 50, former drug addicts that were rehabilitated by NDLA. We're going to rehabilitate them in the vocational training. We're going to help them, not just with the profession, we're going to also help them with training. We're going to help them to put them we have so many plans in the food, in like a supply chain. And we're going to make them, these are the same people that would have been drug addicts and gotten involved in banditry, gotten involved in kidnapping. This government has wonderful plans. So Nigerians shouldn't be deceived.
So you're asking Nigerians to give this government a chance.
They should give the government a chance, and the reason why they should have realistic hopes. They should know that this government came at a time. Even the election is enough to tell Nigerians everything.
Your father ran to be the president of this country.
Yes, he did.
In one of elections regarded or tagged as one of the freest and fairest in this country.
Of course.
Do you see Bola Tinubu in an MKO Abiola for some reasons?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, at the end of the day, everybody is different, But if you look at his own personal attitude, if you go to his house on a given day, he never knew he was going to become president. You will see people lining up the same way you see them lining up in my dad's house. A lot of people I meet up to today, they tell me stuff like, oh, your father did this for me, your father did that for me. A lot of people I meet, they tell me that, oh, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu did this for me, he did that for me. I see these similarities in those areas. And of course, they were both accountants. But I also see a conspiracy, as in like the same people that did not want my father to succeed, they also don't want him to succeed because of the fact that he supported my dad and he almost lost everything. But that's my own personal opinion. I'm not forcing my opinion.
And your father preached hope, and Bola Tinubu too is also preaching hope.
Yeah, preaching hope, because that's you. And even my book, Facebook I wrote, I called it Realistic Hope. Hope is the only thing. Even Barack Obama, his book was Audacity of Hope, Hope. Without hope, we cannot get anywhere. And there's no way we can keep having hope if we see people going
But when the hope looks like a dashed one and people think that what they wanted, they are not getting it. You don't think
I'll tell you what's so funny, when I was a kid, there was a hospital near my house. When they take me there, whenever I have malaria, they're going to give me an injection, I'll just run away. And they'll drag me back, I'll run away again, then they'll finally hold me and they'll give me the injection. After 2 days, after the pain, I'll now be happy because I'll be playing around, I would have recovered. So sometimes for you, things to get better, they have to get tough. It's a test and it's from God. But you see, God is testing people, and it's not just in Nigeria.
So God,
in America,
there's a hand of God in all of this.
There's a hand of God in everything. Even in the United States.
Which part?
Even
the hardship?
Everything.
Or the protest?
The hardship, the
or the president coming into power?
The president coming to power was divine. What is happening is also, even in the United States, the highest level of inflation in the United States this year, it's never happened like that in the US before. The whole world, it's like, I don't know what's going on. I think God is really testing us, And I'll tell you this, we have to pass the test. When I see people looting and all of that, all in the name of protest, I say to myself that the person you are looting, you don't know what he has gone through to even open the shop.
All right. Let me pause it for a moment.
Yes.
Let's go to our Lagos studio where Mr. Inibe Efyong is with us. Give us an understanding. I saw pictures of you on the street in Lagos today. What is your own assessment of the success or otherwise of this protest?
Well, ordinarily, I would have just gone straight to answer your question, but I would like to respond to a few things Mr. Jamiu Abiola has said, and to remind Nigerians that in 2019, Mr. Jamiu Abiola told Nigerians that the then Buhari represented the vision of his father, and in fact told Nigerians to vote. He told Nigerians in 2019 to vote for Buhari to honor his father. In 2020, you can fact-check me on this, Jamiu Abiola, who is President Tinubu today, told Nigerians that Buhari had the same vision with his father. When Buhari left in 2023, thousands of Nigerians were slaughtered. The economy was nothing to write home about. The so-called wall against corruption was a complete flop. The entire country was in ruins. Tinubu came in, and even Tinubu has said he made Nigeria destroyed. At least people loyal to him are saying so. So I begin to wonder whether Buhari's legacy represents the vision of Abiola for Nigeria. I think that is the question Mr. Jamiu and his family should think about, because when he speaks in this manner, it is a desecration of the name of his father. And I'm saying that because I'm very upset about some of the things he has said. Now, regarding your question, I think Nigerians should no longer be taken for granted. We cannot continue to live in a country where we have leaders who do not listen to what the people are saying. People claim, oh, that the president is doing this, the president is listening. Mr. Seun, this protest has lasted for 2 days now. Has President Tinubu spoken to Nigerians? I personally don't want him to address Nigerians. I want him to address the demands of Nigerians. It's not the same thing. But has he even addressed Nigerians? 48 hours after, dozens of over 12 Nigerians have been killed at a minimum. Has the president spoken? 48 hours after, has the government even said, okay, we want to talk? These are our representatives in the dialogue. Because people kept saying protesters should talk to the government. They said the protesters are faceless, they are leaderless. Who are the people that represent the face of the government if the conversation or dialogue is to take place? And what are the demands of the protesters? Because you say people should leave the streets, but have you listened to them? Have you listened to them? You have a president that has 48 ministers, Seun, 48 ministers, the highest in the history of our country, at a time that the country does not have money to run and pay for basic services. If the president is serious, he shouldn't take Tinubu 1 hour to reduce the number of ministers to 37. Because constitutionally, every state is entitled to minister plus the FCT. There is no reason why Nigeria should have more than 37 ministers. So when the protesters say they need you to reduce the cost of governance, these are actions that can be taken under 24 hours. People say they want electoral reform. Seun, you saw how the Akpabio Senate and the counterpart in the House of Reps convened to amend the Police Act to extend the tenure of the IG within 24 hours. Under 24 hours emergency session, they also passed an appropriation act. If the president is serious about addressing the protesters, by now the Federal Ministry of Justice would have come up with a draft bill to amend the Electoral Act and send it to the National Assembly to make electronic transmission of results mandatory under our law. This is one of the demands. If the president is serious, if the president is really serious, he would have addressed, right, other demands of the protesters, including economic policies that have been introduced, that have rendered Nigerians homeless, that have rendered Nigerians hungry. They told us on the 29th of May last year, Seun, that the president has removed subsidy. We are aware from records that the last year, you can fact check me, about 3 trillion was paid for subsidy. Where is the fuel? We are still having queues. People cannot find it to buy. They have increased the cost of the electricity tariff. That has now made a mess of power in our country. So you continue to introduce policies that are subjugating people. And people are protesting. You haven't said anything to address it. You want to buy a new aircraft. You are building a new residence for Shetima. And you say there is no money. And you are saying that people should listen. Now Wike is coming out to make irresponsible statements. I'm not surprised. Nobody is surprised. The same Wike that was threatening people not to come out in the FCT, you are hearing what the governors are saying, because they claim that the president has given money to governors, right, to ameliorate the suffering of Nigerians. For me, that is just a largesse. Because you are dealing with governors that are not accountable. There is no single House of Assembly in Nigeria today, out of the 36. Not one. Not in Lagos, not in Akwa Ibom, not in Zamfara, that can hold a governor accountable. Not even one. All of them have become stooges of governors. Seun, are you not aware that governors are still spending billions monthly? Are still spending billions as running costs to buy new vehicles, to run their government houses on frivolous things. Seun, we are dealing with a kleptomaniac political class in our country. We are dealing with people that have made up their minds to destroy our country. So how can the president be giving money to governors that nobody can hold accountable? And they claim they are distributing rice. How many families have received this rice? How many? They claim that they are going to reduce the cost of a bag of rice to 40,000. Maybe in the villa, they are selling it at that amount. In the markets in Lagos, I haven't seen that. So maybe it's in the Akwa Ibom Senate that they are selling rice for 40,000. I've not seen it anywhere. So the point I am making, if you are really honest about engagement with the protesters, because it's not enough to say you want to engage. Are you really honest about it? Are you honest about it? I am excited that in Lagos, the situation is relatively calm. And that is because at our own level, we are also talking, advising the protesters to be calm. But guess what? Even as I speak to you, today we just secured the release of 12 people from Panti. The governor said it is peaceful. The CP said it is peaceful. People are still being arrested. In Calabar, protesters were arrested. So you have provocation all over the country. And the military is even issuing a statement to threaten Nigerians. So which one should we take? If the government is interested in dialogue, government talks are attacking protesters all over the country. If you are interested in dialogue, who do you want the protesters to talk to? And which of the demands are you willing to make? What concession has Tinubu made so far? None. In Kenya, that they keep making reference to. President,
if I may jump in quickly. Yeah, let me jump in quickly. Mr. Ebun Oluwadegborua, although Adam Lara said that they fired Mr. Ebun Oluwadegborua as their lawyer, he said he's no longer their lawyer, but he has advised that the protest should be called off. Earlier on, I spoke with Mr. Paul Alaje, who says there are dire implications of the protest on our economy. In your own view, should we continue with this protest because of the implication on our lives? We are running a very tender economy that cannot afford non-productivity any longer. What is your view?
The problem of the economy, in my respectful view, is not the fact that businesses have been impacted in the last 2 days. The problem of the economy is that, as I said, we have a kleptomaniac, a criminal political class in our country that has basically subjugated the economy. Because before people went on protest, was the economy serving the interests of the Nigerian people? So, whether the protest should continue or not, it is in the hands of Mr. President. All these irresponsible comments that can you imagine them saying that it is those who lost elections?
What do you think that Mr. President should do? What are you expecting the president to do? How do you think that these protests can stop? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be in the interest of the country. And I'm imagining that the objectives and the effect that the protesters wanted has been established, except if I'm wrong. Can this protest continue? In your own view, how can it be stopped? What should the president do?
Seun, very simple. Very simple. Today, before we wake up tomorrow, I want to hear Mr. Tinubu announce to Nigerians that he has reduced the number of his ministers to 37. I want to hear Tinubu announce that the cost of governance, the cost of running the presidency has been cut by at least 50%. I want to hear the National Assembly and the president announce that the running cost of the National Assembly has been reduced by 50%. I want to hear Tinubu announce that the cost of fuel has been reduced, the electricity tariff has been reduced, that a bill has been sent to the National Assembly to make electronic transmission of results mandatory. I want to hear Tinubu announce that the recommendations of the NSAS panel has been implemented. Seun, till date, since 2020, nobody has been held accountable. Nobody has been held accountable for the killings at the toll gate. People are still in detention. So you cannot say people should leave the street and you are provoking, because they keep asking who is provoking, what is leading to the protest. Apart from anger, those who are sponsoring this protest are people in government that are making irresponsible statements. If the Tinubu government is serious, there are things that can be done within 24 hours. Within 24 hours. How can our National Assembly members be receiving hardship allowance when Nigerians are barely looking for what to eat. Let all these things be abolished. Abolish the office of the first lady. Abolish the office of the first son. Abolish the office of the first daughter. Nigerians will know that you are serious. They are not willing to do that.
But Mr. Mr. Effiong, there are, like one of the questions Mr. Jami Abiola was raising earlier, it's too early in the day to blame President Bola Tinubu of some of the rot that has been in this government that is trying to fix. Is it possible, for example, that the promoters of the protest and some Nigerians will give Bola Tinubu a chance to maybe a bit more time, maybe when it's after 2 years, to see the benefit of the effort and the actions of his government? Is it possible?
I think these questions, with profound respect, are questions that answer themselves. The question of time, as far as I'm concerned, is irrelevant. Tinubu was the leader of the APC because they keep saying he met a rot. Who brought Nigeria to his knees? Buhari. Tinubu brought Buhari to power. At least he has said so publicly by himself. So he said Buhari's policies were his own policies. He endorsed his policies. And if Buhari had destroyed the country, how many people in Buhari's government has Tinubu's government arrested? Has the EFCC arrested? How many former governors have been put on trial? Where is Yahaya Bello? We are still looking for him. So they should stop saying that they made the country destroyed. The people that are serving in Tinubu's government today played role in Buhari's government. The chief of staff to the president was the speaker under Buhari. I can give you several examples. So this attempt to distance Tinubu from Buhari is simply an insult on Nigerians. If this president is serious, I have told you demonstrable actions that he can implement in 24 hours. And people will leave the streets. Nobody wants to protest for the fun of it. They are not doing that. They keep saying we made Nigeria destroyed. It was APC that destroyed Nigeria, and I'm happy they have admitted to it, but they must now repay the damage that they have done to this country. Because they told us they were going to bring change. Look at where we are, Seun. Our new national minimum wage cannot buy a bag of rice. Is that not a scandal on the most populous nation, one of the largest oil-producing countries in our country? And some governors are even saying they cannot implement it. And those are governors that Tinubu is giving pocket money to, because it is pocket money. How can Tinubu be giving pocket money to governors? Governors that cannot be held accountable, governors that have destroyed local government. What an irony. Tinubu, Attorney General, goes to court to say governors should stop stealing or diverting local government money. The same Tinubu is giving money to the same governors. Does that sound like a serious administration that is really listening to Nigerians? So the point I am making is that stop demonizing the protest. Pull out the military from the streets. Section 218 of our constitution is clear. The military is meant to protect the territorial integrity of our country and can only be called in aid of civil authorities when they are overwhelmed. The police is not overwhelmed. The IG cannot tell us that it's overwhelmed. Stop the killing of protesters. Begin to talk to them. Begin to address their demands. People will naturally leave the streets. I have told you things they can do before tomorrow morning. The question is, will he do it?
Mr. Effiong, let me get Damlare's final thought. Are you stopping the protest tomorrow?
No.
You are going ahead.
The protest initially was slated for 10 days. And like we said, it was slated for 10 days, but may go beyond, depending on the response we get from the government. But it doesn't seem that we are dealing with responsible government. So the government should expect it to go beyond 10 days. If our demands, if our concerns are not addressed, the protest will span for more than 10 days.
Mr. Abiola, what would be your final thought tonight on the program? Going forward.
My final thought is that it was very emotional, and it's not the way to go about it. We're trying to resolve issues, not for getting emotional and getting angry. This is something that can be resolved. This is the rule of law country. We have a president that was elected and for a 4-year period, and definitely there are some hardships, and he himself has said it over and over again. And as I told you before, there are a lot of palliative measures he has done. I mentioned to you the youth empowerment scheme. I mentioned to you the 3 million jobs for the youth, which is technical jobs. I also mentioned to you the strategic reserve, 40,000, 42,000 grains of rice, and a lot of things. These things take time. So please, we should be patient, and we shouldn't get insultive, and we shouldn't get emotional. It's not going to help matters.
All right. Mr. Effiong, I just have about 30 seconds for your final thought. What's your final thought? What's the way forward?
That this is your turn. Was it your turn to redeem Nigeria or to further destroy Nigeria? When you go to bed this night, if you are listening to me, please answer that question. One day you will leave that office. What do you want Nigerians to remember you for? What would the Tinubu legacy be? This is a golden opportunity that you have. Nobody is coming to Aso Rock to remove you. I have not heard that as part of the demands of the protesters. But you have a unique opportunity in history to reset this country for the better. Stop listening to sycophants. Stop listening to those that are cheering you on. The country is on its knees. Reverse course. Stop these wastages and change the face of our country, and posterity will remember you. But if you don't do this, history will judge you very harshly. That is what I can say.
Mibe Efyong is a lawyer, is a right activist. Thank you so much. He's speaking with us from our Lagos studio. And Damilare Adenola, who is a director of mobilization of the Take It Back movement, one of the promoters of the nationwide August protest. And of course, Alhaji Jamiu Abiola, the son of MKO and Kudirat Abiola. Thank you so much. He works from the office of the Vice President, advising the President on special duty. Thanks so much indeed for your time. Thank you. We take a break, everyone, but when we return, the Executive Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Uba Sani, will be joining me. Is one of the states that have seen a tough period in this protest and how he has been able to respond to it. And of course, the opportunities that the governors and the federal government has in turning back the hands of these issues for the betterment of Nigerian people. He will be speaking with us on this matter tonight when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our attention will be on the northwestern region of the country in respect of the protest that's engulfed the streets of Nigeria for the last day. It's the day 2 of the protest, which we've tagged the August protest. End Bad Governance hashtag is what the promoters of the protest, a movement that started online that has become a force on the 1st of August. In Kaduna State, we understand that police authorities have arrested about 25 persons. In fact, there were very strong efforts in disallowing some of those persons to enter into the Kaduna State government house. Now, the government of the Kaduna State are denied of imposing curfew in the state. Let's turn our attention now to the Executive Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Uba Sani, who joins us live from Kaduna State. Thank you so much, Governor, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for the patience. I appreciate it. You had come out to say there is no curfew in Kaduna State and everything is under control. There are those who will say things escalated so quickly. How do you describe the last day and how it has been for you and your government?
Thank you very much, Seun. In Kaduna, I can say that since yesterday, everything has been calmed. Everything is in control. We did not experience any protests today in Kaduna. Protests ended yesterday at about 3 p.m. So in Kaduna, we are fine. That was the reason why we did not impose any curfew in Kaduna. That was what actually happened. Because the protest started peacefully in Kaduna at about 10 to 11 a.m. in the morning, but somewhere along the line, some miscreants hijacked the rally. And of course, as a result of that, few individuals amongst the miscreants decided to attack some government offices, about 2 government offices, as well as looted the shop or maybe the house of one very innocent woman. So for us, that was what happened in Kaduna. But before 4 o'clock, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everything was addressed and the protesters went back home. Of course, but what we noticed in Kaduna is that there was a lot of infiltration by some disgruntled elements. That was the reason why we called about last week that in Kaduna, we are not against anyone coming out to protest, because myself being also member of civil rights movement and pro-democracy movement in Nigeria in the past, I participated in many protests in this country, but I led the protest myself. So, but in this case, we realized that some elements within the country, some in Kaduna probably use this gullible children, because in Kaduna, most of the people that came out are young children. They are between the ages of 15, 16, and 17. So for me, I felt it was really unfortunate. And of course, when I saw some human rights activists speaking with you just now in your studio, I was really surprised, because if you are a human rights activist and you are actually calling for the protest, just like we did ourselves in the past, we led it. We don't sit down in the comfort of an air condition in the studio asking people to go out for protest. You should lead it. We led it, and as a result of that, some of us went to detention a few times in this country. That was against the military. And today, we're in a democratic dispensation. I feel if people want to protest, they should come out, direct and lead the protest, so that they don't leave the protest in the hands of young children that they recruited, and they put them on the street and they hide in the studios of national televisions and talking. So for me, that is my only problem. In Kaduna, we made it clear that whoever want to protest can come out. We ask the police to guide them, to ensure that they give them security. But unfortunately, just 30 minutes into the protest, some disgruntled elements, probably that were recruited also, but some elements hijacked the entire protest and attacked even the police. But of course, we intervened and asked the police not to respond. And I want to commend the police here in Kaduna State. I've had a lot of people condemning the police around the country, but in Kaduna, they acted professionally. They decided to ignore even those that were attacking them. And of course, at a certain point, they only use tear gas because that is the normal convention, to use tear gas whenever there is breaking of law and order. When people begin to attack or to break shops and offices, certainly they have to intervene at that moment. So in Kaduna, I can say things went extremely well, apart from the fact that some miscreants hijacked the protest. But at 3 o'clock, like I said, everything went normal. And that was the reason why here in Kaduna, we did not impose any curfew. And today, as I'm speaking with you, people went out and continued their normal activities and their businesses. And that was the reason why I was really surprised when some people that were calling for this protest many, many weeks, they were not organized. They led the protest in the hands of children, people that they recruited, but they did not guide them. That was a problem. But like in Kaduna and many other states around northern Nigeria, I'm sure the reason why we witnessed a lot of lootings and vandalization in Kano and other states around the north is simply because they let those people they recruited to go out and begin to loot some people's shops. It's unfortunate because when you are calling for government to do what is right, to address the problem of hunger and many other things, why do we attack the shops of people who are also struggling, the middle class, the downtrodden, doing their businesses? But at the end of the day, they are the victims. So for me, that is not the protest we are talking about. When they came to us, we said, you can do
Governor Sani, if I may jump in quickly, we understand that Kasilia and Kadipa, these are two agencies of Kaduna State government, which we understand are being raised. Apart from these two agencies, what can you tell us? What are the other incidents that have happened beyond this?
Well, in Kaduna, like I said, we did not experience any major problem because, of course, only Castelia and Kadipa that were attacked and looted. They were all government agencies. So for me, that was the only incident that happened in Kaduna. But of course, we were lucky because they did not go to the shops of some innocent people like in other states and begin to loot their properties. But of course, even though we're here in Kaduna, we will not be happy to see things that happen in Kano, or what happened in Jigawa, what happened in Maiduguri, Borno State, what happened in Niger. It's unfortunate. That was the reason why some of us were a bit skeptical about the motives and the intention of the people calling for this protest. Most of them, I can tell you, that were in the television granting interview with you, why didn't you ask them? Why didn't they lead the protest? Where were they? That is a question journalists should ask. When we call for protest against the military in Nigeria, We led the protests. In Kaduna here, I led several protests in Kaduna. I led it during our era, during the era of military, when we are working closely together with our leader, Chief Ganofa, Femi Falana. All of us. Even I heard that Ebun Oluwadegora telling them to calm down, because I can say that Ebun Oluwadegora was with us. We went to the street with him against the military. I could remember vividly. So he was with us. He knew the meaning of protest. He knew that what is happening today in this country is at the detriment of the downtrodden, not even the government. Because these protesters are looting the shops of people that are innocent, people that are also struggling, people that are affected by this economic hardship. So that is the reason why I think those calling for this protest should sit down and look at the situation critically. When they are saying President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should come out and speak, granted, we have problems in Nigeria, but most of these problems, we want to be sincere, were inherited by this previous administration. That was what I was saying. Maybe most of them do not have the data and statistics of where we are coming from. If you look at the poverty index in this country, look at where we were 2023. Look at the problems we are having as just far back as 2023. So look at where President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over this government. At that point, look at where the problem was. And within a year and only 1 month, if you want to be sincere, nobody will address these problems within only 13 months. So let's be fair. That is the reason why a lot of people were suspecting the motives and sinister.
So, Governor Sani, if I may ask, are you saying that the protest is not justified?
Let me be very frank with you. Most of us that even were asking people to give this protester the opportunity to now speak to the government, to now at least explain their own grievances, so that at least people will hear them. But unfortunately, if you ask me, if you want me to be sincere, my opinion will be different from most of the people that are sitting with you in the studio, because I am a veteran of protests in Nigeria. I was in SSS cell, I was in police cell, I was in detention several times because I led demonstrations in Kaduna. In those days, I led over 5,000 people to the street of Kaduna. Many times, not only 100, 500, 200, 5,000 people I led them to the street of Kaduna. And of course, I was ready to be detained. I was ready to face the authority, because it's a matter of ideology. I believe in good governance. We believe in democracy. That's why we fought for the term of democracy in Nigeria. But what happened in the last 2 days, I must be frank with you, the leaders or the agitators of this protest should have led it so that they can control these gullible Nigerians who went to the street, started looting and destroying government properties. When we fought the military, I remember in 1992 when I led protests against the government, it was Babangeda's government. But the governor then was a civilian governor, 1992. I led demonstration in Kaduna. Over 5,000 people followed me, but there was never an incident of breaking of anything. We didn't touch government properties. We didn't allow anybody to loot any shop. That was protest. And the government listened to us. But when you lead children, you stay in your hotel room or outside the country or in the comfort of studios, Channels Television, Arise Television, TVC, talking about protests. What do you know about protests, really? You should be on the street. If you really believe in what I said, protest is not about speaking grammar. In the studio, please.
Yeah, your explanation, does it mean that you are saying that there are no organization, or are you suspecting that the protest was against the Tinubu government and that there are suspicions of some people working for the removal of Tinubu government? From your explanation, is that what you are saying?
Let me be blunt with you. As far as I'm concerned, because of what happened, I can see that some people mobilize some very gullible Nigerians. Most of them are children. Most of them are not educated, to go to the street to now go against the government. They are trying to now, it's a matter of political revenge. Okay, let me use this word, because most of them lost election. Most of them never wanted Asoji to be president. But in my own opinion, some of us have been veteran in this struggle. Wait, you can change the government through the ballot. You can mobilize people. It's a matter of 2027. We don't go to look to mobilize gullible Nigerians, misinform them, misguide them, and their children are not on the street. So for me,
Governor Sani, that they've raised, issue of hunger, issue of hardship, issue of economic situation in the country, and the downturn that Nigerians are expressing. Are you saying that those are not tenable and those are not valid?
It's valid. In this country, I have no doubt in my mind, there is hardship. A lot of policies with the government are painful, but I believe it's a matter of time. You need to give the government time to address it. But if you have any grievances, constitutionally, you can come out. Like I said, I'm not against protests. I even supported people that wanted to do the protest by telling the police in Kaduna, escort them, give them security, make sure that you protect them. That's why in Kaduna, we don't have any counter-protests. A lot of people came to me who are also pro-Tinubu in Kaduna. They want to go to the street. I said, no, we don't do that in Kaduna.
But Governor Sani, why didn't, I'm imagining that you are one of the most experienced governors out of the 36 state governors that have been part of a protest. I imagine that you would have gone to address them or speak to them. Is there a reason why you decided not to?
Okay, let me be frank with you. They were escorted to the government house. I was ready and prepared to address them. But when they are coming, like I said, some groups came out, hijacked the protest. Before coming to the government house, they met the office of Castelia and Kadipa. Even though Castelia and Kadipa's offices in Kaduna, they are just about 300 to 400 meters away from the government house. On the way, those miscreants broke those offices, vandalized those offices. At that point, I said, no, these are not protesters. These are miscreants sponsored by some political elements to go against the government. Because if they have come peacefully, of course, as someone who believes in protest, I will certainly address them. But on their way, they broke offices, vandalized offices, looted offices. How do I address people like that? What do I tell them? And I ask the police, who is their leader? I ask the police, who is their leader?
Governor Sani,
there was no leader in.
You stated some things tonight, and you've brought a political perspective into the reasons for this protest. And I'm imagining, and I will list a few states here: Jigawa, Borno, Nasarawa, Katsina, Kano. These are a few of the states where curfew has been declared in one way or the other, either in a whole or in part of the state. And if you look at all of these states, none of these states are in the southern region of the country. They are all in the northern region of the country. And for a student of history like myself, there hasn't been in the last 20 years or so much of protest in the northern part of the country, so much that it will escalate badly to have turned into shutting down a state in the northern region of the country. In fact, most of the protest activity that we see are mostly coordinated from the southern region of the country. These are facts, but I'm not trying to put a theory to it. But since you have put up a narrative, is this fact relevant to what you have said tonight, where we find nothing less than 5 states of the northern region of the country under curfew as a result of the escalation of this protest? Make sense for it. Make sense of it for us.
I will answer it in 2 perspectives. Number 1, I will start with northern Nigeria, where I come from. The reason why I will insist that this protest is being perpetuated, sponsored by some elements that want to achieve political revenge against the president and some governors. I have my reason. Let me be very frank with you. They did not succeed in the southeast. They did not succeed in some states, even in the south-south. But I will tell you why they succeeded in the north. Because when you look at the developmental indices, as we are speaking, facing northern Nigeria, in the north, 70% of our people, as we are speaking, are completely financially excluded. Number of out-of-school children in the whole Nigeria, 18.3% are domiciled in northern Nigeria. Number 3, if you look at the level of poverty index we have in this country, 65% of our people in northern Nigeria are below the poverty line. Now, it was very easy for them to misinform, to misguide, to recruit most of the gullible people. That is why when you see states like Kano, Jigawa, Niger, Kaduna, those children that were on the street, they burned most of the offices of government, looted most of the shops that belong to even the middle class and the poor people. That is the reason why I believe there was a level of recruitment. That is one perspective. The second perspective, if you listen to me carefully, is that, look, yes, I agree. These elements I'm talking about, they may not be from northern Nigeria alone. They are from all part of Nigeria. But they succeeded in northern Nigeria because of this problem. And why am I angry? Let me be very frank with you. The north that we belong to, including myself, why do you have these very disturbing developmental indices? We had power in the north for more years than any other part of Nigeria. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not responsible for the problem we are facing in the north, including insecurity we are facing. Let me also give you these statistics. As far back as 2016, there was nothing called kidnappings, insurgency, and banditry in the northwest part of Nigeria. The northwest, Kaduna, Kano, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Jigawa, Kaduna. We did not know anything called banditry, kidnappings, as far back as only 2016. That is 8 years from today. Where are we in this situation? And today, most of those elements that took advantage of this problem and instigated the children of the poor, their children were not on the street. They took advantage. That is why this crisis was more serious in northern Nigeria. And that is the reason why there were a lot of lootings, breaking of offices, a lot of recklessness in the north. And my point here tonight is that if we want to be sincere to ourselves, how do you blame Bola Ahmed Tinubu for these figures and these statistics and this data? In my own opinion, every leader in northern Nigeria, whether you are a governor in the last 15 years, senator in the last 15 years, House of member in the last 15 years, minister, governor, vice president, president, even local government chairman, we should be held accountable to this problem. And instead of us to sit down and begin to blame Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we should sit down and look at ourselves in the mirror and address this problem. But when we continue to be in denial, continue to attack the president or misinforming the gullible people in northern Nigeria because they are not educated, most of them, that was the reason why when I came into Kaduna as a governor, when I was elected, when I signed the executive order, that we need to make sure that we bring back at least 2.5 million vulnerable, underserved, and poor people to financial services sector. Because I came to Ghana with the statistics. As a senator in the 9th Senate, covering about 90% of the financial service sector in Nigeria, because I was the chairman, Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Financial Institutions in Nigeria. So by that, I covered 90% of the financial service sectors in this country. And I know the data and statistics. That was the reason why I was calling on our leaders in the north. That is unacceptable for us to have 70% of our adult age remain financially excluded. In Kaduna, in the last four months, we have been able to bring 2.5 million, and we're targeting another 1 million. Most of our people who are unbanked. How can they benefit from any social intervention by the government.
Governor Sani, let me jump in quickly. I mean, the question is that you have raised this narrative, but I'm wondering how plausible is what you have explained, because if there is a president that has been elected and confirmed by the court for the next 4 years, how would anybody be able to remove him from office? It takes away the fact that there are people who are legitimate on the street and asking, based on their agitation, asking of the government to do what the government is meant to do for the people of this country. How do you respond to the agitations and the charter of demands of these protesters, Governor Sani?
Thank you very much, Seun. Like I said, if you listen to me carefully, among these protesters, there are people that certainly came out genuinely. When we led protests in Nigeria, we just announced there will be protests against social policy of the government. People on their own came out. When I said I led 5,000 in 1992, it's not like I had contact with all the 5,000. But they came out because they know we have good intention. We spell out our demands. We made it clear. We educated our people. This is what we're asking for. In this situation, I can agree with you. There are some legitimate demands. And there are people who came out with genuine intention. But again, the people I'm calling out that they took this opportunity of the situation we're facing in this country to infiltrate it or to now recruit other people to try to see if they can now come up with something that can bring the reputation, the integrity of this government. That is a problem.
How do they hope to remove this government if you think that the plan is to remove this government? How would they do it?
I didn't say removing government, but because I'm a veteran of this struggle, you don't have to protest to remove the government. But you can call for, you can work toward an anarchy in a country. What they did today in Jigawa, there's a curfew. Today in Borno, there's a curfew. Today in Katsina, there's a curfew. Today in the Nasarawa, there are some part of Nasarawa that could be including some part of Niger. What are we talking about? No any business activities going on in those states. There are people that have to go out on a daily basis to do businesses to be able to earn their next meal. Today they cannot go to open their markets. They cannot do anything. What do you put these people? And those agitators, as I'm speaking with you, they are in their houses in air condition because they are comfortable. So there's nothing wrong in protest, but don't put innocent people into more hardship.
What would you say, Governor, is a lesson? What would you say is a lesson out of this protest? For those of you in the political class and those of you who are at the end of affairs, the people are asking that you need to watch the manner in which the people of this country are being served. The issue, the hardship, the poor, the vulnerable in this country. What lesson do you think that this protest has portended for the ruling class in this country and the government of the day?
Yeah, I think the lesson is for everyone, not only the government. The lesson is also for the poor people there and the masses to be careful. I want to make some calls for three set of groups. Those gullible children who are on the street that were used by these people to come out. Next time they call for protest, please, they should ask them to lead the protest. That's number one. Next time they ask for protest, they should ask them to bring their children on the street. They all have children that are matured and they are adults. That's number two. That's what we did when we were doing protests. We came out. That's the first message I have. The second message I have is, as government, I have no doubt in my mind, we inherited a very broken.
It seems that we're having some connection problem with Governor. Please, you can continue.
Yeah, so as a government, we inherited a very bad economy, which was accepted, agreed by everyone in Nigeria, whether you're in the opposition or you're in the ruling party. That is the consensus. We all agree with that because we're in this country. Now, I believe we must work up and quickly address most of those problems, particularly things that have to do with reduction of poverty, creating jobs in this country. Yes, people are talking about palliatives. Even me, I am not an advocate of palliatives. I don't believe people should be given palliatives. I believe concrete policies should be designed that could quickly change the fortunes of Nigerians. We have to look at the economy critically, come up with some measures that could quickly now address most of this problem. Farmers in this country, I believe, like in Kaduna, agriculture contributes about 42.8% of our GDP. The same thing with many other states in Nigeria. I believe the president have done a lot in trying to address the issue of agriculture, but I believe a lot has to be done. Our economy needs to be looked into, because if you look at it, look at the cost of funds in Nigeria. If you want to do any business, you want to borrow money. As of today, 30% interest rate. I don't think anybody can do business and succeed or survive in this country, because it's also something that is very, very difficult. So there are many things that we need to adjust. It's the cost of funds. You go to bank, you want to borrow money. The interest rate is too much. Someone can borrow money from another country, come to your country, establish an industry, and he can put you out of business because you must have borrowed the money cheaper than what you're borrowing in Nigeria. So there are a lot of measures that need to be looked into. Is it economy? Is it agriculture? Many things. Is it trying to also create jobs? So many things has to be done. I agree with that. And we don't have time.
All right.
Time is on our side.
Governor Sani, quickly, so that we can wrap up. Look at some of the low-hanging fruit on the charter of demand of these protesters. One of it includes that there should be a reversal of fuel subsidy. And I'm also asking that there should be a reduction in the size of the government's cabinet. Are these possible to be done immediately? How would you react to those demands by the protesters?
Yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, you see, because we are trying to be very blunt here, when you talk about reducing cost of government is very, very important, because we are facing a lot of problems. For instance, let me give an example of Kaduna. Since I came in as a governor, in the last 30 months, we've not bought a single vehicle for any commissioner, no vehicle for any advisor, not even myself or the deputy governor, because we know the situation we inherited. So we do not do that. We reduce the salary of even our commissioners. Myself, I'm taking 50% of my salary, including allowance, everything put together. Deputy governor is taking 50%. Our commissioners have decided to sacrifice their performance bonus that I inherited. When I came in as a governor, I told them we cannot do that. They all agree. So in Kaduna, we have reduced the cost of governance. That is why we can do certain things. And how many commissioners we have? 16 commissioners. Only last week, we decided to also remove 3 major different agencies, because we realized that when I came in, there are 3 major administrators in Kaduna. That's Kapanchan administrator, Kaduna, and Zaria. And I realized that all those creations, when we put together, we have hundreds of staff there. We're spending a lot of money. So myself and the State Assembly decided to now strike them out through the State Assembly. Why did we do that? We don't need 16 commissioners. We need only 13 commissioners so that we can reduce the cost of governance. We did that only last week in Kaduna. So for me, yes, reducing cost of governance is key because of the situation we have found ourselves in Nigeria today. When things get better, we can adjust, which is acceptable.
What about the fuel subsidy? They're asking for the reversal of the policy on removal of fuel subsidy.
Let me be very blunt with you. I think the issue of fuel subsidy is something that is technical. If you look at it, have you asked yourself, most of those countries that borders Nigeria, is it Niger, is it Cameroon, is it all those countries that borders Nigeria, if you go and ask, most of them are using Nigeria because of the smuggling. So if you see what is happening as I'm speaking with you, no country in West Africa that is not benefiting from what is happening in Nigeria in terms of the low price of our fuel. So I'm not saying there shouldn't be removal of all subsidy, but I'm saying there should be conversation. What I think should be done, the management of the NNPC Limited should hold a town hall meeting, bring the stakeholders together and the people of Nigeria together and explain to them, this is where we are. What is your own input? What's your contribution? Because now when I came as a governor, I called a town hall meeting because there are some decisions I was trying to take that were very painful. And I told them, this is why we're taking these decisions at the town hall meeting. Surprisingly, the stakeholders were the ones that said, go and do it, because we are now keen into the program. We support you because it is in the best interest. But I think there's a lack of communication. That, for me, is very important. It's either because but you don't blame the president, because the president has done his job by appointing ministers and key government officials. It is their responsibility to reach out to the public, to explain every government policy. They must come out and try as much as possible to share those positives with them and get the inputs of the people into every policy of the government. And people must buy any policy and they will defend it. They will support it.
Governor Sani,
no matter how good a policy is.
We need to go. But confirm to us, the arrest, police are said to have arrested about 25 persons. And there are talks that members of the IMN are part of those arrested. Can you confirm that to us?
Yeah, I can confirm to you that the police realized that most of those people that came out and attacked the police, they were arrested, like I told you, because they broke into the shops. And when they were taken to the police station in Kaduna, they interrogated most of them. And because they found live ammunitions, and some of them even were caught with guns in Kaduna at the rally. So when they took them, they said, look, where are you having live ammunition and all those? They said, look, when they investigated them, they did a lot of interrogation. The report I had yesterday from the police and the DSS is that most of them are members of the IMF. So for me, it's unfortunate. That was the reason why when people are calling for protests, they should come out and lead it so that they make sure that people do not infiltrate. Because if you call for protests, please come out. I am an advocate of protests. I will continue to support protests in Nigeria because I was participating in that. But please, my last message to people who want to call for protests in Nigeria, I want to urge them. Please lead the protests. Even in this current democratic dispensation, when there was a level protest in Kano, if you ask them, I participated there in this current dispensation because for me there's nothing wrong with protest. But please, it should be done in a proper way where those calling for the protest, they should lead it. They don't sit down and say they are big men. There's no big men in agitation. Come out.
All right.
Are you afraid to go to police and just talk? There's no reason to be afraid. We did it during the military. We visited the SSS to tell them we're doing protests. Right. We visited the police. That was the issue.
Governor Sani, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Executive Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Uba Sani. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Ben.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Seun. Thank you for having me.
Put our attention into some technical issues. Yeah, this is very critical for those who have blamed the Tinubu government about the manner in which they have handled things. And those who will say the Tinubu government are really making effort. They have done quite a lot in 1 year. The question you should be asking is, what are those things that they have done? How come people don't appreciate it? But those who will say it's a communication problem. Well, tonight, let's get some perspective and get a professional touch on explaining to us what the problems are and perhaps the solution. I'm being joined by a perception manager and expert, Mr. Yomi Badejo Okusanya, who is the lead partner at the CMC Connect. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Okusanya, and it's good to see you again.
Thank you, Seun.
I appreciate it.
Quite a while.
Thank you. It's been a while. From your own point of view, perception is what you have done all your life. You know how to mold perception, manage perception, and even create narratives. But for this government, over the last 1 year, what would you say, or what have you identified as a professional in that sector is a major problem?
Okay, thank you, Seun. Before coming here, I got a list of things that the administration has done. Let me read some of them. Minimum wage, import duties suspended on food items, import duties suspended on pharmaceutical raw materials, 30,000 petrol-powered commercial vehicles, 20,000 students of tertiary institutions have already been covered in student loans, 50,000 presidential grant for 600,000 people, 75 billion to be disbursed in 100,000 for small and medium scale enterprise, 10 billion, 110 billion approved for disbursement for youth investment, consumer credit scheme, over 570 billion released for state governors for the expansion of livelihood support. And there's a whole lot,
long
3
list.
pages of what this administration
and these are policy oriented, and these are also active government decisions or real in the real sector, things that have been done that we can see on the ground.
Or things that are in the pipeline. So you begin to ask yourself, where is the lacuna? Where is the dissonance? Why are people out on the streets? And I've heard a lot of your guests talk about the issue of communication all day and saying that the communication is not there. I think it's something that needs to be examined.
So from what you have seen, a lot of movement, a lot of activity, but there seems not to be, the disconnect is the communication, the gap between the people and the government.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. When Ahmed Bola Tinubu administration came up, my firm carried out a survey, and most people said they were going in the right direction. And if you also find out what, from most people you've spoken to, they said, yeah, we understand the issues, because any of the contestants then who will win or who would have won the presidential election, they would have had to go through this path. The question again is then, why this huge disconnect? Why are the people not believing to the extent that they can go out?
So I need to ask you, you are the expert. Why?
Well, one, there's a trust deficit. And that trust deficit is not from this government alone. It's been from way past.
It's a systemic problem.
It's a systemic problem.
That over people time, don't believe in their government.
Yes, they don't believe in the government anymore. Let's talk about what reputation is. Reputation, like we said, is what people believe who you are. And that your reputation is based on trust. You have invited me because you trust that I'll be able to contribute to the subject matter. I have come here because I believe that you're a credible channel. So there's trust involved in everything you do. There's trust involved. So right now, I think the government of the day did not start with that trust. They did not start by building that trust on which some of these programs can run. I say things, for example, what the administration says is that it's about renewed hope. Is renewed hope a tangible or an intangible? It is, of course, an intangible, but there's a way you can convert hope into a tangible that people can look forward to. And how do you do that? You give them a roadmap of where we're going. You give them a destination for them to look at. You give them a place where they can arrive at. And I think that that's where the challenge, that's where the disconnect has been. The government, and some people may crucify me for this, they mean well from what I've seen. I don't believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would sit in his house or in his room or in the presidential villa and would deliberately like to inflict suffering on the people. But the path to getting to where there's a solution or to getting to where that promised land is, has not been as well communicated.
I mean, you've been on the ground for quite a while, and you've run your agency in Lagos, where Governor Bola Tinubu of in 1999 and 2007 held sway as the governor. So you understand the reputation, because you mentioned the issue of reputation.
That's right.
So reputation is not something that happens today and now.
No,
it's something that you have built over the years.
That's
now,
right.
So if you describe Bola Tinubu, you will say it's one man that has a reputation of excellence. Is it right? Is that right?
Well, yes.
You will say that is a governor that stand out amongst his colleagues and his peers
yes.
when he was governor first
class,
time.
the class of 1999.
And you will probably say is a governor that also knows what he knows his audience, isn't it?
That's right.
And that in performance, maybe he has been able to put the name of Lagos State quite on the global map as the fourth largest economy on the continent.
That's right.
So he has a reputation.
That's right.
Is the reputation in danger at the moment?
Definitely. Definitely.
What is putting it in most danger right now?
Well, because the people are not matching the results, or let me put it like this, the performance or the promise with what they're experiencing at the moment. Let me tell you something. You can postpone your rent, paying your rent. You can postpone paying your children's school fees. You can postpone paying salaries, but you cannot postpone hunger. You cannot postpone hunger. When it comes, it comes. So a lot of people right now are reacting. And what they're thinking is that, yes, these policies on the long run may turn out right. But right now, we're hungry. And a hungry man, they say, is an angry man. And therefore, what can we do immediately to alleviate the problem? There's only one antidote for hunger, is food. If there's no food, you can't preach to the person.
Hope is intangible.
Hope is intangible. You can't give the person hope.
You have to
when
give the
hunger. It's food. There's only one.
Even if you do 60-day fasting, you have to still break.
At the end of the day, when you want to break, you break with food. You don't break with, you can pray, but you break with food. So the truth of the matter here is that, yes, so let me give you an example of what I'm talking about now. So in terms of belief, the peoples are saying, our hopes have been dashed over a period of time. Every time the government, and I'm not saying just this government, has been telling us, tighten your belt, tighten your belt. And at the end of the day, we don't seem to have the end of the tunnel. And you asked the governor of Kaduna State a question just right now. When communication, what you say is, let me put it like this, what you say is perhaps maybe less than 20 or 30, 20-something% of your entire communication. It is what you do that speaks a lot more volumes. So, are you matching your walk with your talk? Which would then make people believe in you that this is where we're going. If we, the citizen, are asked to tighten our belt, the government must also demonstrate. Because the first thing the government must do right now is reconnect with the citizens of this country. So
is profligacy is it part of the problem?
The people don't see that the government are tightening their belts. Because when you see some of the things that are happening, when you see some of the things, I'm not a politician, I'm just a communications person.
And that's a disaster, isn't it?
It is sending the wrong signals.
Because there are those who will say, do what I do, don't do what I say.
Yes. So if you're...
And in government, you've got to do what you say and what you do.
Yes.
You've got to make people do what you do. And what in the Diagbo and the Buhari era, there are those who will say some of those values that government, the military government,
that's right.
I see very much. You
that's
see people staying on the queues.
That's
it
right.
became a culture. You see people marching in and out of classrooms. The kids. These are some of the things that became some part of our nature as a people. And if you are thinking about the right things to be done and right things to help this government, how important is perception, though?
Very important. In fact, I think that the challenge that the administration had is that immediately the president took or made those statements, and on May 29, 2020, last year, May 29th, when 2023, I beg your pardon. I think that the biggest thing they ought to have invested in is communication. Because many people predicted that this day will come. If there is no way where the hopes, or the hope, I beg your pardon, the belief of the people can be managed, it will come to where we are today. And that's why we're there. So for me, I think that with all what this government has listed as its achievement, a proactive approach would have been a lot better than the reactive which we're experiencing now.
I mean, you've been in this sector, so you know, Bola Tinubu should be the last person that should have a communication problem. He's a media owner. And there are those who will say, being a governor of Lagos State is a hub of communication and the media. And there are those who will say, look, he understood the language of communication and the media when he was there. He was friends of a lot of journalists. There are a lot of journalists who worked in his government. Dele Alake is an example. You have the Kaude Fayemis of this world. You have the leader of the Senate who also worked. There are a lot of people who practice journalism that worked with Bola Tinubu. Sunday Daddy is that those who have worked with him. He's supposed to be the last man to have a communication problem. But did he get it wrong in the setting up, or where do you think the problem started from?
First and foremost, there's a dissonance. And what I mean is that I see a lot of people come up and they're not speaking the same language. I gave an example earlier on this morning, and I gave an example of what happened to many years ago when Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola was governor of Lagos State. And I went to an event and he spoke at that event on a Monday. And then on a Thursday, one of his commissioners spoke at another event that I was. Take away the voice, take away the person, they spoke in the same manner. So that's number one. There must be unity of purpose. And there's something I mentioned earlier on today. I talked about there's a politics of communication, and then there's the communication of politics. A lot of what is happening is the politics of communication rather than the communication of politics. So you have a situation whereby there are discordant tunes. And then secondly, communication is a two-way process. And I think that as much as the government is speaking, they should also listen and take it in. I wonder how much of that listening is going on. Maybe through surveys, maybe through research, maybe feedback, and so on and so forth. Number three, I find out that a lot of people who come, especially on media channels like yours, they tend to be talking down at the citizens. And I believe that that is not right. I think that they should engage with the citizen. So the politics of communication tendency is that you are rewarding patronage, and therefore people are in a scramble to show that they're the ones who are doing the best for their principle. But when it comes to the communication of politics, the entire team comes together. And when I mean the entire team, I'm not just talking about those who are involved with the communication role, but the entire team come together and they are schooled, so to speak, on what they take out there and how they would communicate with the citizenry. Because the biggest thing they require is to engage with the citizens and bring them on board. There's something that is lacking here. It's called ownership. And you find out that most citizens are not in ownership. No, that's not true. A lot of citizens may not be in ownership of this administration in the sense that they believe in what the administration is doing, and through the challenges that we're going, they can work. They can own it. They can say, okay, let's go through this period. We don't mind. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's forgo this. Let's forgo that. So that the administration, you need to paint a vivid picture of where we are going. And those pictures have to be accompanied with strong timelines.
So, Mr. Kusaya, now that I got you, difficult to get you on this kind of set, but now that I have the privilege, and as a very good friend, and as a patriot, I'd like you to do a job for us, for free.
Yes.
We are at that point that we need to fix our country.
Yes.
But if the highest office in the land has this kind of perception and communication problem, there is a way out, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
We are not doomed.
No,
Anyways,
no,
we still can fix things. All right, let's get a free consultancy from you.
Okay.
And I imagine those in the presidency, and in fact, maybe the president, might be watching us tonight.
Okay, first and foremost.
Structurally and ideologically, there needs to be a reshaping, isn't it?
That's right.
What should they do immediately?
Press a reset.
How?
One, every crisis is an opportunity. So if there's no crisis, there's no opportunity. This is an opportunity for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reset his administration. One, when you're in a crisis, bring out your gun. This is a big crisis. Bring out your biggest gun, and that's President Tinubu. If he comes out and he speaks, I am sure that people, it would, like a balloon, some air will be deflated from it. Number two, there are some things that the people have asked for, those who are protesting. Truth of the matter is that you must exchange something. You must meet them at a certain level. You cannot tell them, or it will be difficult, let me not put it like this, it's difficult for you to tell them to get off the street when they haven't gotten anything. Give them something, trade something. Recently, we had the issue with labor, and government said, oh, this is the amount we want to pay. Labor said, this is the amount we want. There was a concession, and at the end of the day, there was an agreement because labor got something. Immediately, I think President Bola Tinubu must seize this narrative. He must seize the moment, and he can do that by, one, coming out, addressing the citizens. 2 days now, there's been protests. Let him address the citizens. One, not through anybody. Let him do that. Number two, let him grant some concessions. Because at the end of the day, even when you want to appeal to the protesters, sheath your swords. You can say, okay, this is what I have given you. This is what you have. This other one would look into it. He's a master negotiator, and I'm sure he can do that. He did that with labor, and I'm sure he can do that with the people here, with the protesters. Get them off the street. First and foremost, let us sit down at a table. Immediately, these are the things. If we look at what happened in Kenya, the first thing that the President Ruto did was that he canceled the bill. He first said he suspended it, and then he said outright, I'm not even going to address it. So that brought some respite.
Yeah. Let me pause you for a moment. Let's go to a state where we had very much relative peace. And one of the person who was very vocal on the street, vocal on the pulpit, and also vocal on the street. And there was a reference to him yesterday on this program. It's Prophet Issa El-Buba, who joins us virtually live from Jos, the capital of Plateau State. Prophet, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure, Seun, to be with you today.
Thank you so much.
And it's good listening to you.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Give us an understanding. You felt the pulse of fellow Nigerians who took to the street. And from what you saw and what you felt, what do you think is at the center of that agitation?
Basically, there are very few things. And it's unfortunate when I listen to some of the government officials or governors, you're pointing their fingers at politicians sponsoring some of these things. That is far from the truth. I will tell you, like on the situation of the Plateau, there is not one politician, not one. It is just the people. It's an organic thing. And it's because of the level of pain, the level of hunger. And the fact is that the government is far away from the people. And that's why there's this disconnect. And I just heard one of the panels, the individuals on the set that said that the government, or sometimes the political elites in government, look down on the citizen or talk down on the citizen. That's the reality. And so because the people are hungry, that's number one. Number two, the promises the presidency has been making for over 1 year, those promises are not coming through. And the people are not seeing a reality to it. And then you look at the level of insecurity. Now, for instance, I had to get some farmland to give to over 80 households for them to go and farm. We have to secure the environment. We have to provide seeds for these people. Where is the Minister of Agriculture, for instance? Nobody knows it. So the presidency has a wrong team. And so the people are not informed. We'll hear of palliatives. The president is giving palliative, but nobody sees it here at the bottom. Nobody. For instance, we hear that the president has given governors several amount of money. I am telling you this, the citizens are not saying anything. There is no fertilizer. I had to buy fertilizer for 40,000 naira. And we were told that the government has released fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer. But there's nothing like that. So there is pain in the lives of the people. And I can tell you, Seun, there is hunger in the land. People are dying every day. We've never seen it like that. So that is the force that has made the people to come out, organically. Nobody. You can see individuals bringing 4,000, 2,000. People are bringing water to drink. People are just contributing to sustain this protest. And by the grace of God, my presence among the people has been able to help the people to be orderly. And the thousands of people, nobody, even some of the people that were singing the song, Tinubu must go, after addressing them, nobody is saying that anymore. We are not asking the president to go. What we are asking the president to do is to act immediately. There are few things the president can do right now in 24 hours. We've stated some of these things. What
those things be, Prophet?
Short term, what are the midterm things, and what are the long term?
Can you briefly talk
in the next 24 hours?
Can you briefly talk through some of those three
in the next 24
stages?
Hours, the president can come out and say. The president can say in the short term, the president can come out immediately to number one, address the nation and say, number one, look, he has the wrong cabinet. I will tell you this. The president can act on it immediately. Look, I'm going to act on my cabinet in the next few hours. He can present that. The president can act immediately and say, look here, the issue of of fertilizer, I'm going to act on this, and I'm asking the Ministry of Agriculture to liaise with the activists, the ones that are not corrupt, to be able to monitor it, not government official. Then the president immediately can summon all the leaders of the protest and sit down with them, not with the politicians. I'm sorry to say that, because they are only singing the songs of deception. They are not telling the truth. And so the best thing for him to do immediately is to call for this politician. If he addresses the nation immediately and call for the leaders of the protesters across the country, sit down with them, listen to them immediately. I'm telling you, in the next 24 hours or 48 hours, this thing will be called up. Now, for instance, let me give you an example about the subsidy. He should declare and say, okay, because the protesters have demanded, I'm going to reverse the issue of the subsidy matter. I'm going to reinstate it in the next few months. But this is the way we're going to go. And the president can do it. The CNG, they have made promise since last year. We have been praying for the president to succeed because he is our president. He is the leader of the nation. We can't take that away from him. And so what he needs to do immediately, where is the Minister of Petroleum? Who is the Minister of State Petroleum? These CNG kits are supposed to be in all NNPC filling stations, but they are not there. All NNPC filling stations, but you cannot find it. It's only promises. It's only promises. I give you an example. A governor did something yesterday. The governor of Taraba. He went to the protesters, sat with the protesters, sang with the protesters, spoke to the protesters. And I tell you, nobody reacted. Just like what I'm doing on the plateau. All the protesters in their thousands, none of them is misbehaving. Everybody is putting himself together. So the president would need to have one-on-one communication with the people. And I tell you, the president can succeed. So this is short term. And then the other thing that the president will need to do, short term, is to cut down on his expenses. What is it? God has blessed him. He has everything. So as a leader, you will have to make a sacrifice. And that sacrifice will mean that no buying of jets, no building of new government palaces. We have the old one. Let's manage it for now because of the state of the nation. But the people are hearing millions, trillions, billions, billions every day. And I tell you the truth, it's affecting them. I traveled to about 20 states in the past few days. I had to take up the Minister of Works. Thank God he apologized on the media. I had to take them and say, look at it. It doesn't take so much money to fix some of this road. Nigerians will see. Nigerians are suffering. All we need to do is just little. Nigerians are the easiest people to lead. I saw this in this protest. As I led the people, some of the people that were taught, we got them converted. They changed their mind. Even the ones that were sponsored by government officials, we got them converted. They joined this thing and agreed that we need to change the system in our nation. So they renewed hope. There are things that the president can do short term. Then there is the mid-term. Then there is the long term. And you should give a timeline that in the next 7 days, Nigerians, you will see this. In the next 2 weeks, Nigerians, you will see this. In the next 1 month, Nigerians, you will see this. The ministers should not be sitting in the offices, you know, as executive bosses over Nigerians. The ministers of the president should be on the streets, should be with the people. If you are elected or appointed to serve the people, you should be a servant, not a master. We are having people that the moment they come into office, they feel they are masters. But you see, I had to bring myself with my children, my family. We were with the protesters. I had to coordinate it. If I did not coordinate what happened on the plateau, plateau would have gone bizarre. But right now, you see they are growing by the day. Today, they are 3 times more than yesterday.
Professor Abuba, just for a moment.
So my is that the president
just for a moment.
Can fix things.
Well,
yes.
I'd like to ask you, from what you have seen so far, do you think that this protest has achieved some major objectives that it set out to achieve? And do you think that this government's attention has been gotten? And does it look like this government is a listening one?
Now, let me give you this. Number one, this protest has achieved a lot. Number one, it has proven to the political class that they cannot continue to take the masses for granted, especially here in the north, where politicians make themselves like emperor. The reality is now showing up on their faces that if they don't take care of the people will not give them space to even enjoy their loots. Number two, the issue of religion. People using religion to cause division in the north especially, I tell you that has fallen. If you see today, Christians surrounded thousands of Muslims and they were praying. I asked the Muslims to go to the mosques to pray. They all shouted, no sir, no sir, we are going to pray here. And so the issue of this religion, the seat of discord, has fallen. Number three is that Nigerians are coming to realization that they can actually take up on their government and demand for accountability. So it has achieved so much beyond our comprehension. So the only thing the president needs to do immediately is to respond. I'm telling you, these young men are not they are not like rescinding. They are not going, they are not like saying we're going to give up. They are multiplying by the day. Let's not be deceived by some of the comments I hear governors, I hear some of the people come online, it's politicians who don't like the president and all of that. It's a lie. It's a blatant lie. And I'm being straightforward. I'm sorry, I'm not diplomatic, because we have to fix this country. We have to get things working in this country. And the president has a lot. He has a good heart to do it, but I tell you, the people working with him, they are just the bad set. Right now, as I'm talking to you, to me as a person, the president doesn't have more than 3 ministers that are really functional. Who is the Minister of Agriculture? Who is the Minister of Social Duty? Who is the minister? Who are they? Nobody knows them. So There are actions that will be taken, and this protest, I tell you, is doing a lot. And I will advise the governors to go meet the people. Stop sitting in the office as an emperor. You are the servant of the people. You need to talk to the people. And I'm telling you this, it's not about Tinubu. It's not about APC. It's the fact that there is a wrong system that is on ground, and many of the special advisors and government officials are just lying to the president. For instance, why should they go and hire talks? Why should they go and hire people? They call them anti-protest people. Give them money to come and speak in support of the president. They don't need to do that. They don't need to spend that money. If they have come down and speak with the protesters, I'm telling you, we won't be where we are right now.
The final note, Prophet, because you are a cleric and you see things spiritually, some of the things that ordinary persons like us don't see. What do you see on your spirit mind about the Tinubu government? I believe so much in the Nigerian project, and I know that one day, and I keep my shoulders high whenever I'm amongst my international peers, and they know that I'm a Nigerian, and I don't hide it. And in the knowledge that God has given to me, I also make it known to them that I'm from a nation that is proud of itself. Now, what do you see about the Nigerian nation and the Tinubu government? Can you share with us just in 30 seconds?
I'll tell you the truth. First of all, I want to commend you, Seun, for really standing for the masses. You don't know how much you have affected the ordinary citizens. I'm being honest with you. All right? There are calls for me to negotiate on this matter, but I resisted it. I refused it because of the pain of the people. I see a new Nigeria. That's what I see. And President Tinubu has, let me use the word, he has the greatest opportunity to write his name in gold. Because Nigeria is going to lead the state of Africa. Africa needs to be free. I'll tell you the truth. And it's going like a wind. I see it like a mighty wind. I won the Kenyan president a few weeks ago, and exactly that is what happened. I have spoken to president. I have spoken about our president. He has the best opportunity. If he can just listen to the right people, I'm telling you, in less than 6 months, President Tinubu will do what has not been done in 15 years. I'm saying this. In less than 6 months. So I see a new Nigeria. That's why I am passionate. And that's why I didn't sit in the comfort of my house. I am on the street. Can you imagine, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., I'm under the sun, directing these young people, speaking to this young man, because I feel the pain. I feel the pulse. It's not just preaching. I'm preaching to them. We need to show them the way. So, President Tinubu, there is hope for Nigeria. I see a new Nigeria. But right now, the president will need to take a quick action before this nation will get out of hand. But then everything will lead to a glorious destination. But he has the best opportunity to write his name in gold. He shouldn't listen to people that are telling him it is Peter Obi, it is Atiku, it is that politician, it is Silva, it is this in that state. It's a lie. Is a lie.
Professor
Nigerians are the ones who have come out to express their pain.
Prophet Issa El-Buba.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
A Christian cleric based in Jos Plateau State. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. And I believe that Nigeria will be great. It's for certain. I believe so much in my spirit. Thank you so much for your time. Let me allow you to close for us tonight. What parting words do you have for this nation? Led by President Bola Tinubu, we are at a threshold and a moment where we need to unite as a people for the greatness of this country. What word would you have, a lasting word you have for President Tinubu and this country?
Reconnect with the people. And you can reconnect with the people because there's dissonance. I've mentioned this. The dissonance has led to the lack of ownership of the policies that he has brought, that's there. And I think that lack of policy is because we still haven't communicated it well enough. And that has resulted in a poor perception of those policies and the good intention of and sincerity of this administration and even the commitment of the president. So what's the solution? Let's rejig the solution, the strategic communication apparatus of this country. Starting, let there be a lot of investment in it. Because it doesn't seem to be hardcore, people think that let's take money to finance, let's take money to this, let's take money to that, let's take money to trade. But you need to invest significantly. You need to be deliberate. You need to be intentional about the way that you are communicating with people. Prophet said it. I believe it. Let's stop this blame game. Every governor I've listened to, it says they are the enemies that are distracting. There are only two people who are responsible, in my opinion, for this protest, Mr. Hunger and Mr. Poverty. And unfortunately, the security people cannot arrest both of them. Like I said earlier, you can't postpone on hunger when it comes. So I think, Mr. President, come out tomorrow, address the Nigerians. You do it. You do it. Not through any of your aides.
Number two, proxy.
Yes, not through any proxy. Give a few things. By 3 days, I'll do this. By 7 days, I'll do this. By 8 days, I'll do that. By 1 week, I'll do that. And you see how that protest balloon will be deflated.
Mr. Yomi Badejo Okusanya, who is the lead partner at CMC Connect, a perception manager par excellence. Thank you so much. And it's good to see you, Mr. Okusanya.
Thank you, Seun.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Just before we go, of course, as you see those protests on the streets of Nigeria, there are those also who are responding to some of the narratives, especially in Lagos. The National Assembly Caucus, the Southeast National Assembly Caucus, has condemned the continued ethnic profiling of Igbos over the nationwide end bad governance protests across the country and are asking those behind it to stop and be brought to book. Of course, we know that in Abuja, there is being the Tinubu support group members who are calling for calm urge and urging Nigerians to believe in Tinubu's administration. That Tinubu support group led by Megogo, they gathered again in Abuja on the second day, just as the protesters are gathering, they are also having their own gathering. Let us bring it, everyone. As we report the left, we are reporting the right also. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. That's our beat on this episode. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. I'm sure Okinbaloye. God bless Nigeria.